Imagine standing before ruins older than history itself, structures so precise, so impossibly advanced, that even today, experts struggle to explain how they were built, or why they were left behind. From colossal stones carved with surgical precision to artifacts buried in places they should never exist, the world is littered with puzzles that defy our understanding of time, culture, and human achievement. Every continent holds secrets etched into stone and soil, whispers of civilizations whose knowledge seems to vanish into thin air. Were these the remnants of forgotten peoples, or glimpses of something far stranger? What drove ancient builders to align temples perfectly with the stars? Why do some artifacts suggest technologies thousands of years ahead of their time? And what truths still lie buried beneath shifting sands and dense jungles, waiting to rewrite the story of our past? These are not myths or legends, but real mysteries unearthed by archaeologists, and they raise more questions than answers. So sit back, open your mind, and join us as we journey into the world's most unexplained archaeological mysteries. On the windswept shores of Orkney, off the northern coast of Scotland, lies a village that time itself seemed to forget. Low, stone walls rise gently from the earth, covered by centuries of sand and grass, their outlines forming an intricate map of passageways and chambers. This is Skara Brae, one of the best preserved Neolithic settlements in all of Europe, often called Scotland's Pompeii. But unlike Pompeii, no volcanic ash entombed this place. Its preservation is a mystery born from the land itself, a quiet testament to lives lived 5,000 years ago. Archaeologists believe Skara Brae was occupied around 3100 BCE, long before the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge reached their full form. What remains is astonishing. 8 houses linked by covered walkways, complete with stone furniture still fixed in place, beds, hearths, and storage spaces carved directly from the rock. It is as if the inhabitants had only just stepped out, leaving behind the blueprint of their daily lives. Yet questions linger. Who exactly were these people, isolated on a windswept island? How did they thrive in a harsh environment, centuries before the rise of written records? And perhaps most importantly, why did they abandon their home? The mainstream explanations are practical. Climate change may have made farming and fishing unsustainable. Rising seas and brutal storms could have driven the community inland. But the suddenness of their departure troubles many researchers. Skara Brae was not destroyed by war or fire. Its homes stand nearly intact, the passageways still clearly defined. There are no signs of violence, no evidence of a catastrophic event. The people seem to have simply walked away. Some artifacts hint at deeper mysteries. Grooved stone balls, perfectly spherical, carved with intricate patterns, have been found throughout Orkney, including near Skara Brae. Their purpose is unknown. Were they tools, symbols of status, or objects tied to rituals we can no longer comprehend? The walls of the village, too, contain faint markings. Some scholars see nothing more than decoration. Others suggest early attempts at recording knowledge now lost to us. Then there is the architecture itself. The houses of Skara Brae were not crude shelters. They were built into the earth, insulated against the relentless winds of the North Atlantic. Central hearths suggest a sophisticated understanding of heating. Stone drains beneath the floors may point to an early form of plumbing, a level of ingenuity rarely attributed to communities of this period. If this was simply a small farming village, why do its structures show such advanced planning? Speculative theories abound. Some propose that Orkney was not a remote outpost, but a hub of cultural or spiritual significance in Neolithic Europe. The island is home to an extraordinary density of ancient monuments, standing stones, ceremonial circles, and burial cairns, all within a short distance of Skara Brae. Could this concentration of monuments suggest that Orkney was once a center of ritual power, drawing people from far beyond its windswept shores? Others look to the wider mysteries of prehistory. Across the world, ancient peoples aligned their monuments with celestial bodies. At Skara, Brae, some researchers have suggested alignments with the solstices, though evidence remains debated. If intentional, were the villagers tracking the passage of time, the changing of seasons, or something more, an early cosmology, a way of connecting earth and sky? And yet, with all these questions, Skara Brae also resists romanticization. Its artifacts, combs, beads, simple tools remind us that these were human lives, ordinary in their rhythms. Families gathered around fires. Children played in the narrow passageways. Daily existence was fragile, yet deeply rooted in this windswept land. Perhaps the true mystery lies not in hidden technologies or lost civilizations, but in how much of their world remains unknown to us, despite the stones that have endured. When storms first uncovered Skara Brae in the 19th century, after lying buried for thousands of years, it was as if a voice from prehistory had suddenly broken through the silence. But even now, after decades of study, the settlement continues to whisper rather than shout. Its story is incomplete, its meaning elusive. Why was such a sophisticated village abandoned so suddenly? What role did Orkney play in the larger web of Neolithic culture? Were its monuments merely local expressions of belief, or fragments of a shared tradition that spanned continents? And most haunting of all, what knowledge, what stories, what ways of life disappeared with the people who built Skara Brae? The stones endure, but the answers remain buried, waiting perhaps for the day when we finally learn to listen. As the cold winds of Orkney fade into memory, our journey moves southward, across the waters of the Mediterranean, to another landscape shaped by human hands, yet cloaked in mystery. Here, in the rugged heart of Sardinia, rise thousands of stone towers, scattered across hills, plains, and valleys, silent sentinels of a civilization long vanished. These are the Nuraghe, enigmatic structures whose origins trace back over 3 millennia, yet whose purpose continues to puzzle historians and archaeologists alike. From a distance, the towers appear simple, conical shapes, rising abruptly from the rocky terrain, their surfaces weathered by centuries of sun and wind. But up close, their construction reveals an astonishing sophistication. Massive stones, some weighing several tons, are fitted together without mortar, forming walls thick enough to withstand siege or storm. Many towers contain intricate chambers and staircases spiraling upward, hinting at a design far more advanced than one might expect from a society without writing. The Nuraghic civilization flourished in Sardinia from roughly 1800 BCE to 500 BCE, leaving behind an estimated 7,000 to 10,000 of these towers. Entire villages often clustered around them, connected by narrow paths and dotted with smaller stone huts. Yet even with centuries of study, we remain uncertain why they were built in such extraordinary numbers. Were they defensive structures, guarding against invaders? Or perhaps communal centers where social, religious, or political life coalesced? Mainstream scholarship leans toward practical explanations. The towers could have served as fortresses, watchtowers, or strongholds in a fragmented society. Archaeological evidence suggests that some Nuraghe were indeed inhabited, containing storage spaces, hearths, and domestic tools. Yet many towers stand alone, in locations seemingly chosen for their isolation rather than strategic advantage. Why construct a solitary fortress in the middle of an open plain, exposed to the elements? And why, despite their defensive potential, do so few show signs of battle or destruction? Beyond their functional aspects, the Nuraghe possess a geometry and alignment that hints at a deeper significance. Some researchers note possible astronomical correlations, with certain towers oriented toward solstices or key celestial events. Could these massive structures have served as calendars or observatories, connecting human life with the rhythms of the sky? And if so, what knowledge might the builders have possessed? Knowledge lost to time and irretrievable from the stones alone? Then there are the artifacts. Bronze figurines, often depicting warriors, priests, or even horned figures, have been unearthed near the towers. Their stylized forms suggest a complex culture, rich in ritual and symbolism. Yet the precise meaning of these figures remains elusive. Were they guardians, votive offerings, or representations of a mythology we can no longer access? Some scholars speculate that the Nuraghic people possessed a spiritual or cosmological worldview, encoded in the tower's placement, shape, and internal chambers. Others consider the possibility of early mathematical or engineering knowledge, embodied in the careful balance and stability of structures that still stand tall after more than 3,000 years. Speculation does not end there. Certain Nuraghe display architectural features so sophisticated that they challenge conventional understanding of prehistoric societies. Corbelled roofs, massive stone blocks arranged with precise angles, and interconnected chambers hint at advanced techniques and planning. Some theorists even propose that the towers were part of an extensive communication network, transmitting signals across the island. Could the Nuraghe represent an early form of urban planning, engineering, or symbolic architecture, a civilization's silent attempt to leave a mark on both land and sky? Yet, despite their majesty, many Nuraghe remain unexplored, shrouded in mystery and overgrown by vegetation. Some lie in remote valleys, accessible only by rugged trails, where the shadows of the towers stretch long across the uneven terrain. Walking among them, one is struck by a sense of scale and purpose, as if these stones were erected not merely to endure, but to communicate something profound. But what was it? What message, if any, did the builders intend for future generations? There are also broader questions about the Nuraghic civilization itself. Who were these people, and how did they organize their society? Why, despite their impressive stonework, did they leave so few written records? How did a civilization capable of such monumental construction eventually fade, leaving only towers and scattered artifacts as evidence of their existence? Some researchers suggest that external pressures, trade disruptions, invasions, or shifts in climate may have contributed to their decline. Others argue that we may simply be missing the key to understanding a culture whose values and priorities were fundamentally different from our own. Walking through a Nuraghe today, it is easy to imagine the lives that once animated these spaces, the careful placement of stones, the flickering light of hearths within thick walls, the sounds of conversation, ritual, or celebration. Yet even as we reconstruct these human moments, the towers retain their mystery, resisting full interpretation. They are at once tangible and enigmatic, practical and symbolic, offering glimpses of the past while keeping their ultimate purpose just beyond our grasp. In the quiet of Sardinia's hills, the Nuraghe rise like questions etched in stone. They challenge our assumptions about prehistoric societies, their knowledge, and their ambitions. Each tower is a monument to human ingenuity, yes, but also a reminder that some truths may be irretrievably lost. Why were so many constructed across this island? How much of their meaning remains hidden beneath the soil or buried in the intentions of people long gone? And what might these silent sentinels tell us if we could only learn to listen? As the sun dips behind distant ridges, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, the Nuraghe stand resolute, enduring, enigmatic, and profoundly human. They beckon us not just to study them, but to wonder, to question, and to recognize that the mysteries of our past often outlast the civilizations that created them. As the sun sets over the rugged hills of Sardinia, where the Nuraghe rise like silent sentinels, our journey takes us to a discovery that seems almost to emerge from legend itself. Near the modern town of Cabras, in the Sinus Peninsula, archaeologists unearthed fragments that would forever alter our understanding of the island's prehistoric past. Colossal stone statues, their presence both awe-inspiring and confounding. These are the giants of Monte Prama, standing over 2 meters tall, carved from local sandstone with a precision and artistry that speaks of a culture both sophisticated and enigmatic. The discovery in the late 1970s stunned the archaeological community. Buried for centuries, the statues had been broken and scattered, yet their size and craftsmanship could not be ignored. Each figure bears distinct characteristics: muscular torsos, elaborate armor, round shields, and detailed weapons, suggesting warriors or guardians of some kind. Yet unlike other known Mediterranean sculptures of the same era, the giants are uniquely Sardinian, tied to the Nuraghic civilization, yet unlike anything else on the island. Dating suggests they were created between the 9th and 8th centuries BCE, a period when Sardinia was both isolated and yet subtly connected to wider Mediterranean cultures. The statues were not buried as part of a simple ritual, but rather in a deliberate arrangement within a necropolis, hinting at ceremonies or commemorations that remain largely mysterious. Why were these figures constructed on such a massive scale? And why were they later intentionally broken and interred? Mainstream explanations point to funerary and religious purposes. Many scholars argue that the statues were votive offerings, monumental tributes to fallen warriors or revered ancestors. Their imposing size may have been intended to impress, to communicate power and authority to both the living and the dead. Yet even this practical interpretation raises questions. The precision of the carvings, the consistency in proportions, and the stylistic uniformity across multiple figures suggest a standardized method of production, a sophistication that hints at more than mere memorials. The weapons and shields carried by the giants evoke an era of conflict and defense, but paradoxically, no evidence of large-scale battles exists in the immediate area. Were these figures symbolic representations of martial strength, rather than depictions of actual individuals? Or could they have been guardians in a spiritual sense, standing sentinel over the tombs and territory of the Nuraghic people? Then there is the artistry itself, which borders on the extraordinary for a civilization often characterized in modern narratives as primitive. The detailed carving of muscles, armor, and facial features demonstrates an understanding of human anatomy and proportion rarely attributed to this period. Some theorists even speculate that these statues may encode information beyond the visible, a form of symbolic language, a visual record of societal hierarchy, or a spiritual cosmology now lost to time. Further intrigue comes from the context of their location. Monte Prama is not a solitary site. It lies within a broader landscape dotted with Nuraghic towers, villages, and sacred wells. The statues, in their original placement, may have been part of a larger ritual or social framework, connecting architecture, topography, and human form in a way that challenges modern interpretations. Could they have served as markers, guiding travelers or pilgrims? Were they intended to communicate across distance, a silent language carved in stone? Speculative theories extend even further. Some researchers propose that the sheer scale and detail of the giants may reflect cultural or even technological knowledge that has been lost. How did these artisans achieve such uniformity across figures, given the tools and materials available at the time? Did they possess advanced techniques for quarrying, transporting, and carving large stone blocks? And if so, why does such mastery appear isolated, with few comparable examples elsewhere in the ancient world? The breaking and burial of the statues adds another layer of mystery. It is clear that the dismemberment was intentional, rather than the result of natural disasters. Could this act signify conquest, religious reform, or a deliberate attempt to obscure knowledge? Were the statue's powers, whether spiritual, symbolic, or social, so significant that the community felt compelled to neutralize them? Or were they casualties of shifting cultural tides, buried as their purpose faded from memory? Walking among the fragments today, one is struck by their scale and presence. Even broken, the pieces convey the grandeur and ambition of a civilization long vanished. There is a palpable tension in the stones, a sense that these were not merely objects of art, but carriers of meaning, guardians of secrets, and witnesses to histories that remain only partially told. What stories did these figures witness? What human experiences, victories, and tragedies are encoded in their silent forms? The giants of Monte Prama challenge us to reconsider the Nuraghic civilization not as a peripheral culture of the Mediterranean, but as a society capable of extraordinary artistic and social complexity. They remind us that even in prehistory, human creativity and ambition reached astonishing heights, and that much of that ingenuity remains hidden beneath layers of earth, time, and silence. And yet, as we stand before these broken giants, their purpose remains unresolved. Why were they carved on such a monumental scale? Why were they later destroyed and buried? And what connections, spiritual, social, or cosmic, did they once hold across the island of Sardinia? The answers remain elusive. The stones endure, fragments of a story only partially recovered, a dialogue across millennia that continues to whisper in the wind. We may never fully understand the giants of Monte Prama, but their presence reminds us that the past is far richer, stranger, and more mysterious than we often imagine, and that some secrets, it seems, are meant to endure. From the windswept hills of Sardinia, where the giants of Monte Prama silently guard their ancient secrets, our journey moves to the arid expanse of Upper Egypt, a land where time has a different rhythm and the desert keeps its stories buried beneath millennia of sand. Here, in a modest archaeological site known as Nazlet, Khater, researchers uncovered a discovery that would challenge our understanding of early human history. A single skeleton, remarkable not just for its age, but for its enigmatic characteristics. Excavated in the 1980s, the Nazlet Khater skeleton dates to approximately 33,000 years ago, a period when Homo sapiens were establishing themselves across Africa and beginning to populate the wider world. At first glance, the remains appear unremarkable. Bones carefully preserved, positioned as if the individual had been placed with intention. Yet, detailed analysis reveals a striking and puzzling set of features. The skull, robust and elongated, the jaw pronounced, the bones unusually large and dense. These traits distinguish Nazlet Khater from contemporaneous populations in the region. Mainstream anthropology identifies the skeleton as a fully modern human, yet its morphology diverges significantly from what would be expected for Upper Egypt at this time. The combination of archaic and modern features raises immediate questions. Was this individual part of a transitional population, a genetic outlier, or evidence of unknown interactions between groups thought previously to be separated by geography and culture? And if so, what does this suggest about the movement and diversity of early humans in the Nile Valley? The context of the burial deepens the intrigue. Found in proximity to stone tools and evidence of habitation, the skeleton hints at a community capable of organized activity, tool production, and possibly ritualized behavior. Yet there is a sense of isolation. Few comparable burials exist nearby, and Nazlet Khater itself remains enigmatic, a site that speaks in fragments rather than full narratives. Was this individual representative of a broader population, now lost to time, or a unique presence whose lineage vanished entirely? Some researchers suggest that the skeletal traits may indicate interbreeding with other hominin species. Could this individual carry echoes of interactions with populations of Neanderthals or other archaic humans, their influence surviving in bone and morphology? Such possibilities, though debated, compel us to reconsider rigid models of prehistoric migration and evolution. The Nazlet Khater skeleton may be a reminder that human history is rarely linear, rarely simple, an intricate web of overlapping populations, migrations, and adaptations. Then there is the question of scale. The skeletal measurements suggest a stature slightly above average for the period, coupled with a robustness in bone structure that implies significant physical activity. Was this a reflection of the harsh environment of Upper Egypt, where survival demanded strength and endurance? Or does it hint at something more unusual, a population with distinctive genetic or environmental adaptations that we have yet to fully understand? The tools found nearby add another layer of complexity. Flint points, scrapers, and other implements suggest skillful craftsmanship, yet the technology does not always align neatly with the skeletal features. Were these tools part of a standard cultural toolkit for the region, or evidence of a distinct group whose cultural expressions remain largely invisible to the archaeological record? And if such a group existed, why did it disappear, leaving only a single skeleton as testimony to its presence? Speculative theories have arisen over the years, ranging from cautious to controversial. Some suggest that Nazlet Khater may represent a lost or isolated population, bridging gaps between African and Eurasian populations. Others propose that the skeleton is a survivor of genetic lineages previously thought extinct, a living echo of a population whose complexity is only now being glimpsed through bone. Yet all of these interpretations are tentative, constrained by the scarcity of comparative material and the limits of the fossil record. Walking through the arid landscape today, it is easy to imagine the life of this individual. Perhaps they navigated the Nile's floodplains, hunted game, and gathered plants, moving with skill and awareness in a landscape both beautiful and unforgiving. Perhaps they were part of a community whose customs, language, and stories are lost entirely to time. And yet, as we reconstruct these human moments, the skeleton continues to resist full understanding, standing as a solitary witness to a chapter of human prehistory that remains largely unread. What does the Nazlet Khater skeleton tell us about the broader story of our species? Was this individual an anomaly, a genetic outlier in a well-established population, or evidence of broader patterns of migration and interconnection previously unrecognized? How many other mysteries lie buried across the deserts of Egypt, in graves unexcavated, waiting for a moment when science, chance, and human curiosity might uncover them? Even after decades of study, the answers remain elusive. The skeleton endures, a testament to survival and to mystery, its presence challenging simple narratives and urging us to reconsider assumptions about early humans. It reminds us that history is not just recorded in written documents or monumental architecture, but in the silent testimony of bones, each one a story partially told, partially hidden. In the quiet of Nazlet Khater, the desert wind stirs the sand, carrying whispers from tens of thousands of years ago. The individual we study is gone, yet through their remains they speak to us across time, inviting wonder, careful inquiry, and the recognition that some secrets, no matter how diligently sought, may remain tantalizingly beyond our grasp. From the windswept deserts of Upper Egypt, where the Nazlet Khater skeleton silently hints at humanity's ancient diversity, we return to the rugged landscapes of Sardinia, a land whose stones seem to preserve echoes of the past in every ridge and hollow. Here, scattered across the island, lie monuments that defy simple explanation, the tombs of the giants, massive stone constructions that have intrigued scholars, locals, and travelers alike for centuries. These enigmatic structures, known locally as Tombe dei Giganti, are more than burial sites. They are enduring symbols of a civilization whose ambitions and rituals remain tantalizingly obscure. At first sight, the tombs of the giants are imposing. Long rectangular mounds of stone, some exceeding 30 meters in length, rise from the earth like ancient coffins frozen in time. Each tomb is flanked by monolithic stones, often arranged in semicircular formations, forming imposing facades that command the surrounding landscape. Entering one of these tombs, one is immediately aware of scale. The massive stones dwarf the human frame, creating corridors that evoke both reverence and unease. These are not mere graves. They are monuments to memory, power, and perhaps something beyond human comprehension. Archaeologists date the tombs to the Bronze Age, roughly between 1800 and 1200 BCE, contemporary with the Nuraghic civilization that built the island's iconic towers. Within their chambers, skeletal remains have been discovered, sometimes of multiple individuals, accompanied by pottery, tools, and occasional ornaments. Yet, despite careful study, much about these tombs remains mysterious. Why construct tombs of such extraordinary size? Why include multiple burials in a single chamber, arranged with what appears to be deliberate symbolism? And what social or spiritual significance did these sites hold for the people who built them? Mainstream explanations suggest that the tombs served as communal burial sites, designed to honor the dead and assert social cohesion. The term "tombs of the giants" derives from the remarkable scale of the constructions, which early observers assumed must have required gigantic laborers. While the builders themselves were, of course, ordinary humans, the nickname endures, capturing the sense of awe inspired by these colossal structures. Yet the practical explanation of burial alone does not account for the architectural sophistication, the precision of stone placement, or the enduring visibility of the facades across the landscape. The tomb's architecture itself invites deeper contemplation. Many feature a long central corridor, leading to an apse-like chamber at the far end. The stones are carefully fitted, with some monoliths weighing several tons, positioned with an engineering skill that suggests both knowledge and intention. Some tombs include vertical slabs rising like sentinels, while others are adorned with carved motifs, simple yet deliberate patterns whose meanings remain debated. Were these purely decorative, or do they encode knowledge, beliefs, or celestial observations lost to time? Speculation extends further when considering the placement of the tombs across the island. Many are located on elevated ridges, overlooking valleys, plains, or coastal expanses. Could their positioning have ritual significance, aligning with the sun, the stars, or natural landmarks? Were they meant to serve as markers of territorial claims, sacred sites, or cosmological observatories? The answers remain elusive, yet the consistent patterns suggest deliberate thought rather than random placement. Inside the tombs, the human remains themselves provoke questions. Some skeletons display signs of remarkable stature, leading to speculation that the term giants might reflect not just the size of the tombs, but also the extraordinary physical characteristics of those buried within. Were these individuals leaders, warriors, or shamans? Did their prominence in life dictate their monumental memorialization in death? And if so, what can we learn about the social hierarchy, spiritual beliefs, and daily life of the Nuraghic people from these silent witnesses? Artifacts found within the tombs further deepen the mystery. Ceramic vessels, finely crafted tools, and occasional bronze objects hint at trade networks, technological knowledge, and ritual practices. Yet many tombs contain few or no artifacts or objects that appear symbolic rather than functional. Were these tombs designed to serve multiple purposes, ritual, memorial, social, or is much of their original context lost to erosion, time, and human intervention? The tombs of the giants also connect intriguingly with other enigmatic Sardinian monuments. Some scholars have noted spatial relationships between the tombs and nearby Nuraghe towers, sacred wells, or other ritual sites. Could these structures have been part of a broader network of social and religious activity, encoding knowledge of the land, the seasons, or spiritual beliefs? Or were they solitary expressions of communal memory, independent of broader patterns, whose meaning is now obscured? Walking among these ancient stones today, it is easy to feel a mixture of reverence and puzzlement. The tombs endure as silent witnesses, inviting reflection on the people who built them, their lives, ambitions, and beliefs. One imagines ceremonies performed in the fading light of day, the careful placement of bodies and offerings, the murmured prayers or songs that accompanied rituals now lost. Yet, despite centuries of scholarship, these monuments resist full understanding, leaving only questions to echo in the corridors of stone. What drove the Nuraghic people to build such extraordinary tombs? Were these structures purely funerary, or did they serve a deeper purpose in connecting the living and the dead, the earth and the cosmos? How much of their meaning was encoded in patterns, placements, and carvings that we are no longer able to decode? And what other stories, lost beneath layers of soil and memory, remain hidden in the Sardinian hills, waiting for a time when their secrets might be glimpsed again? The tombs of the giants stand today as enduring enigmas. Their sheer scale, precision, and presence challenge assumptions about Bronze Age societies, reminding us that the past is rarely simple, linear, or fully knowable. And as the wind moves across Sardinia's rugged landscape, these ancient monuments continue to whisper across time, inviting us to wonder, to question, and to confront the mysteries that survive long after their builders have vanished. From the rugged hills of Sardinia, where the tombs of the giants rise in solemn tribute to lives long past, our journey moves eastward across continents to a landscape of lush river valleys and sandstone cliffs in western India. Here, carved into the horseshoe-shaped gorge of the Hagar River, lie the Ajanta caves, a complex of rock-cut sanctuaries and monasteries that have endured for over 15 centuries. Unlike the monumental towers and tombs of Sardinia, Ajanta's wonders are not the work of colossal stones but of meticulous craftsmanship, where human hands transformed living rock into spaces of devotion, art, and enduring mystery. At first glance, the caves appear deceptively simple, dark recesses hollowed from sheer cliffs, their entrances marked by finely carved facades that echo the rhythms of nature itself. Step inside, and the experience changes entirely. The interiors are bathed in subtle light, filtering through carefully placed openings, illuminating frescoed walls, painted ceilings, and intricately sculpted pillars. The colors, though centuries old, retain a vibrancy that defies the passage of time. Deep ochres, rich blues, and shimmering golds depicting scenes of daily life, spiritual narratives, and celestial beings. Each figure, each brushstroke, seems imbued with a presence that reaches across the centuries. The Ajanta caves were developed in two major phases, the earliest around the 2nd century BCE, and the later, more elaborate phase between the 5th and 6th centuries CE, under the patronage of various Indian dynasties. They served primarily as Buddhist monasteries and prayer halls, yet their scale and complexity suggest a society deeply committed not only to faith, but to artistic expression, philosophy, and perhaps even coded knowledge. What drove a civilization to undertake such an immense endeavor, carving hundreds of meters of solid rock with tools available in antiquity? How did artisans achieve such precision and harmony, especially when so much of the work is concealed in shadow and detail? Mainstream scholarship points to devotional intent. The caves were meant to house monks, support meditative practices, and illustrate the Jataka tales, the life stories of the Buddha and his previous incarnations. The paintings depict moral lessons, allegories, and cosmological ideas, a visual scripture for both lay people and clergy. Yet there are elements that challenge simple explanation. Some scenes include figures whose features, clothing, or gestures are unusually sophisticated or even anomalous for the period. Could these reflect influences from distant lands, interactions with travelers and traders along the Silk Road, or artistic conventions whose meanings have been lost? Beyond stylistic questions, the very existence of Ajanta raises logistical mysteries. The caves were hewn into near vertical cliffs, yet they display remarkable symmetry, planning, and proportion. Certain halls appear aligned with natural features of the landscape, while others incorporate architectural techniques, columns, corbelled ceilings, and drainage systems that suggest advanced knowledge of engineering and design. How did the builders achieve such feats with only chisels and hammers? Was there a system of surveying, of measurement, of visual planning that has been lost to history? Then there are the paintings themselves, whose preservation over centuries continues to astonish. Pigments were made from mineral and organic sources, yet many still retain brilliance, resisting the decay that affects so many works of similar age elsewhere. How were these colors applied and sealed in conditions of high humidity, seasonal flooding, and temperature variation? Did the artists understand chemical processes that have been forgotten? Or was it careful technique and sheer patience that created such enduring beauty? Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Some researchers have suggested that Ajanta was more than a monastery. It may have functioned as a hub of esoteric learning, where spiritual practices intersected with philosophical, astronomical, or mathematical knowledge. Certain motifs and patterns in the paintings, geometric forms, recurring symbols, depictions of celestial bodies, hint at ideas that go beyond mere storytelling. Could the caves encode information about cosmology, cycles of time, or meditation techniques intended to expand consciousness? The cave's location itself invites contemplation. Hidden within a gorge, Ajanta is both protected and secluded, accessible only by treacherous paths before modern roads were built. This remoteness may have been deliberate, providing a sanctuary for contemplation and study, removed from the distractions of human settlement. And yet the caves were not entirely isolated. Evidence suggests that pilgrims, merchants, and travelers visited regularly, leaving impressions of a connected, vibrant society engaging with the broader world. How did such a site balance isolation with interaction, contemplation with communication? Walking through Ajanta today, one senses both awe and humility. The cliffs themselves seem to breathe with history. Each hall, fresco, and carved relief carries the weight of devotion, skill, and mystery. One can imagine monks meditating beneath painted ceilings, the flicker of oil lamps casting shadows across stone surfaces, while artisans chiseled figures and applied pigments with unwavering care. Yet even as we reconstruct these moments, the caves continue to withhold their full secrets, allowing only glimpses of the knowledge, artistry, and purpose embedded within their walls. What messages did the creators of Ajanta intend for future generations? Were the paintings and sculptures primarily didactic, spiritual, or symbolic? How much of the knowledge, technique, or meaning has been lost to time, leaving us to interpret only fragments? And might there still be hidden aspects of the caves, chambers, carvings, or layers of pigment, waiting to reveal themselves to those patient enough to look closely? The Ajanta caves endure, a monument to human creativity, devotion, and ingenuity. They remind us that mystery is not only found in isolated skeletons, monumental tombs, or colossal statues, but also in spaces where art, faith, and daily life converge in ways that transcend time. As the sun dips behind the cliffs, casting golden light across carved facades, The caves seem to whisper across centuries, inviting contemplation, curiosity, and the recognition that some secrets, though hidden, are meant to inspire wonder. From the intricately carved sanctuaries of the Ajanta caves, where art, devotion, and mystery converge in living stone, our journey now carries us to the remote and rugged wilderness of New Zealand's South Island. Here, beneath the jagged peaks and hidden valleys of Mount Owen, lies a discovery that has puzzled scientists, historians, and enthusiasts alike. A relic so small in scale yet so vast in implications. The Mount Owen Moa Claw. The claw itself is unassuming at first glance. Slightly curved, darkened with age, and weathered by time, it is a fragment of a creature that once roamed the land in great numbers, the extinct moa. Yet, what makes this specimen extraordinary is its context. Discovered in a cave deep within Mount Owen's limestone labyrinth, the claw was encased in sediment and seemingly untouched for centuries. Its preservation is remarkable, as though it were waiting for a moment in time when the modern world would stumble upon it, prompting questions that extend far beyond a simple fossil. Moa, flightless birds unique to New Zealand, disappeared from the islands approximately 600 to 700 years ago, primarily due to human hunting and environmental changes. The claw from Mount Owen, however, presents anomalies that challenge conventional timelines. Analysis of its surrounding deposits and radiocarbon dating suggests a possible coexistence with early human populations in ways that remain debated. Could it indicate hunting or ritual practices by prehistoric peoples, or is it merely a natural remnant, misplaced or preserved in isolation? Mainstream science maintains that Moa remains are relatively common across New Zealand, yet the Mount Owen specimen stands apart due to the environment of its discovery. The cave is remote, high in the mountains, and difficult to access even today. How did a creature, primarily adapted to lowland forests and grasslands, leave a trace so far above sea level? Was this a wandering individual, a displaced specimen carried by natural forces, or is there evidence of human interaction, ritual, or transport that we have yet to fully understand? Further intrigue arises from the claw's morphology. Its curvature and the structure of the bone suggest it belonged to one of the largest moa species, birds that could reach heights of over 3 meters and weigh several hundred kilograms. Such a creature, so formidable in life, leaves behind a sense of awe and curiosity when reduced to a single fragment. The claw evokes questions about the behavior, ecology, and even the mythology of moa in the consciousness of the people who lived alongside them. Did early Maori populations attribute symbolic meaning to these massive birds? Were remnants, like the Mount Owen claw, collected for ceremonial purposes? Or did they serve as tools for storytelling, ancestry, or spiritual connection? Speculative theories have emerged over the years, fueled by the claw's mysterious context and the absence of comparable finds in similar high-altitude locations. Some researchers propose that the presence of moa remains at such elevations indicates ecological behaviors that were previously unconsidered: seasonal migration, predator evasion, or feeding patterns unique to mountainous terrain. Others suggest human agency. Perhaps early populations transported the remains for ceremonial or practical purposes. Could the claw be evidence of ritual offerings, symbolic burials, or even early myths brought to life through interaction with these massive birds? The environment of Mount Owen itself amplifies the mystery. The cave system is intricate, formed over millennia, with tight passages, hidden chambers, and fragile rock formations that seem almost otherworldly. It is a place where the ordinary laws of time feel suspended, where the whispers of history linger in the cool, still air. Discovering a moa claw here is more than a paleontological find. It is a direct connection to a vanished ecosystem and a vanished people, a fragment of life frozen in a place that humans still struggle to reach. Walking through such caves today, one is acutely aware of scale and isolation. The mountains rise sharply, weather patterns shift without warning, and sunlight barely penetrates the deeper chambers. In such a setting, a single claw can inspire wonder, speculation, and reflection. How many other remnants lie hidden in the limestone labyrinths of Mount Owen, waiting to be unearthed? What stories might they tell about the creatures that roamed New Zealand and the humans who shared the land? Artifacts like the Mount Owen Moa Claw also compel us to confront the fragility of knowledge. For every discovery, countless others remain undiscovered, eroded by time, weather, or human activity. And yet, the claw's presence invites investigation, reminding us that even a small object can hold vast implications for understanding ecology, human migration, and prehistoric interactions. What then can this single fragment teach us? Does it hint at lost behaviors, rituals, or beliefs surrounding the Moa? Could it reveal untold chapters of human and animal coexistence in an era long before written records? And what other relics, hidden in caves, forests, or mountains, may yet challenge our assumptions about the past? The Mount Owen Moa Claw endures as a silent witness, a fragment of a world both familiar and alien. Its discovery reminds us that mystery is not always monumental. It can be subtle, delicate, and profoundly revealing. As we peer into the shadows of Mount Owen's caves, we are invited to consider the delicate balance between life and extinction, memory and oblivion, and to recognize that some secrets, though small in scale, have the power to expand our understanding of the ancient world. From the hidden caves of Mount Owen, where a single Moa Claw bridges the worlds of prehistoric life and human curiosity, we turn once again to Egypt, a land where desert sands conceal stories that span millions of years. Far from the fertile banks of the Nile, in a remote expanse of the western desert, lies a place both extraordinary and haunting: Wadi al-Hitan, the Valley of the Whales. Here, the earth itself tells a tale of transformation, revealing a landscape that was once submerged beneath a vast, prehistoric sea, and preserving in stone the ancient giants that inhabited it. At first glance, the valley seems barren, a series of gently undulating hills and scattered rock formations stretching into the horizon. But look closely, and the ground is punctuated with thousands of fossils, skeletal remains of whales, some complete, others fragmented, frozen in time. These are not small creatures, but colossal marine mammals, ancestors of modern whales, their bones embedded in the desert floor with astonishing clarity. Spinal columns, skulls, and ribs lie in careful, almost sculptural arrangement, as though the sea itself had paused, preserving these giants for eternity. Dating of the fossils places them at roughly 40 to 50 million years ago, during the Eocene epoch, when this region of Egypt was submerged beneath the Tethys Sea. Over time, geological uplift, climate change, and erosion transformed the seabed into desert, leaving behind these silent monuments to a world lost long before humans walked the earth. Yet the Valley of the Whales is more than a geological archive. It is a profound reminder of the impermanence and transformation of life, and a site that invites both awe and inquiry. Mainstream science explains the fossils as remnants of an era when whales, still in the early stages of evolution, navigated shallow seas, feeding and breeding in coastal waters that would one day vanish. The skeletal arrangements offer clues about their development, their morphology, and the transition from land-dwelling ancestors to fully aquatic mammals. But despite extensive study, the valley retains an air of mystery. Why are the fossils so remarkably preserved? How did entire skeletons remain largely intact through millions of years of shifting sands and tectonic activity? And what more might they reveal about evolutionary processes that are still only partially understood? The landscape itself contributes to the enigma. Erosion has exposed some fossils in striking isolation, while others remain partially buried, tantalizingly hidden beneath desert sediments. The bones seem almost intentionally displayed, as if the earth were arranging them for those who would come millions of years later to discover them. Could the patterns of fossil placement reveal environmental behaviors, herd movements, feeding grounds, or catastrophic events such as sudden flooding? Or is it simply the hand of geology, chaotic yet strangely ordered? Speculative interpretations extend beyond natural processes. Some theorists ponder whether the valley might hold undiscovered insights into evolutionary anomalies. Certain skeletal features, unusual bone formations, and clusters of overlapping remains suggest behaviors or environmental pressures not yet fully understood. Could there have been interactions among species, or adaptations unique to this region of the ancient Tethys? Could the fossils, in their silent testimony, be hinting at patterns of migration, predation, or social behavior long erased from the living world? The Valley of the Whales also offers a remarkable glimpse into the continuity of life on Earth. These fossils, predating humanity by tens of millions of years, remind us that the Earth has repeatedly transformed, hosting species and ecosystems that vanish without a trace. Yet here, in this remote desert, the evidence endures. It is both a warning and an invitation to study, to reflect, and to wonder about the forces, both natural and unknown, that shape the trajectory of life. Walking among the exposed skeletons today, one is struck by scale and detail. Vertebrae larger than a person's torso, skulls broader than a small car, and elongated ribs stretching across the sand evoke the majesty of life in a primeval ocean. And yet, despite their enormity, there is fragility in the fossil record. Each bone is a relic of a delicate balance disrupted over millennia. How many species, ecosystems, or behaviors existed here that left no trace at all? What remains undiscovered beneath the desert sands, waiting for patient observers to uncover them? The Valley of the Whales also invites reflection on human engagement with deep time. For centuries, these fossils were known to local populations, often regarded with curiosity and mythic imagination, long before formal scientific study began. Today, archaeologists, paleontologists, and geologists converge on Wadi al-Hitan, seeking to decipher what the bones can tell us about life, evolution, and extinction. And yet, even with advanced tools, the valley continues to resist complete explanation. How can we fully interpret a record that spans millions of years? What secrets lie buried in layers of sediment, unseen and waiting for the next generation of explorers? The Valley of the Whales stands as a profound intersection of history, mystery, and science. It is a place where time is almost tangible, where the Earth's past asserts itself with quiet authority, and where the scale of life, past and present, becomes simultaneously humbling and inspiring. Every fossil is a question, every sediment layer a clue, and every desert ridge a reminder that the story of life is far more complex than a single human lifetime can capture. What does the Valley of the Whales ultimately tell us? Is it merely a record of evolutionary history, or does it hint at patterns, events, and processes that we have yet to fully comprehend? How many other regions of the Earth hold similar stories, still concealed beneath layers of rock, sand, and time? And as we study these ancient bones, what can they teach us about the impermanence of life, the continuity of nature, and the mysteries that endure long after civilizations rise and fall? The fossils endure, silent and monumental, inviting contemplation and wonder. In the Valley of the Whales, the past speaks across millions of years, urging us to listen carefully, to question, and to recognize that some of the planet's greatest mysteries are written not in human history, but in the very bones of life itself. From the windswept deserts of Egypt, where the Valley of the Whales preserves the echo of prehistoric seas and ancient giants, our journey turns once more to the Mediterranean, to a small archipelago that conceals some of the oldest and most enigmatic stone structures in the world. Perched atop rugged limestone cliffs overlooking the vast blue expanse of the sea, the Hagar temples of Malta emerge like timeless sentinels, their massive stones standing resilient against centuries of wind, sun, and salt-laden air. At first glance, the temples are a study in permanence and precision. Megalithic blocks, some weighing several tons, are arranged in circular and oval formations, connected by carefully constructed corridors and altars. The stones, though eroded by millennia, retain the impression of deliberate craftsmanship. Chambers carved to align with human movement, niches that may have held offerings, and facades shaped to impress. Step closer, and the scale of the work becomes undeniable. Each stone, massive and weathered, appears both monumental and intimate, suggesting a culture deeply attuned to both the earth and the heavens. Radiocarbon dating places Hagar in the 4th millennium BCE, making it contemporaneous with other remarkable Neolithic sites across the Mediterranean. Yet, despite its age, the temple complex exhibits an architectural sophistication that raises questions even for modern observers. The walls curve with intention. The altars occupy carefully chosen positions, and the entire site is thought to be oriented toward celestial events, including solstices. How did a prehistoric community achieve such precision without written records, advanced tools, or surveying instruments as we know them today? And why did they devote such labor and ingenuity to structures whose purpose remains only partially understood? Mainstream scholarship suggests that Hagar served religious and ritual functions, possibly as a sanctuary dedicated to fertility, nature, or ancestral worship. Figurines found nearby, abstract representations of women, often interpreted as fertility symbols, support this interpretation. Yet the scale of construction, the placement of stones, and the apparent sophistication of alignment hint at something more than simple ritual. Could the temples have been used for astronomical observation, a prehistoric calendar, or a means of connecting human life with the cycles of sun, moon, and stars? The temple's construction raises further enigmas. Many of the megaliths are transported from quarries some distance away, requiring extraordinary coordination, ingenuity, and manpower. How did these ancient builders move stones weighing several tons across uneven terrain, shaping and fitting them with such accuracy? Did they employ techniques now lost to history, or methods so simple yet effective that modern archaeology still struggles to fully reconstruct them? And beyond logistics, what motivated these people to undertake such immense effort, generation after generation, without leaving written explanations? The carvings and symbolic elements found at Hagar deepen the mystery. Spiral motifs, bas-reliefs, and abstract shapes appear on altars and walls, their meaning still debated. Are these decorative, symbolic, or functional? Could they encode knowledge about the natural world, celestial movements, or spiritual beliefs long forgotten? Some researchers note alignments with solar events and hypothesize that certain chambers were designed to capture sunlight at particular times of the year, illuminating altars or figurines in ways that suggest ritual choreography. Speculative interpretations extend even further. Some scholars propose that Hagar may have served as a regional center, connecting dispersed communities across Malta through shared ritual and cultural practices. Others suggest that the temples could reflect an early understanding of astronomy, mathematics, or geometry, encoded subtly in the angles, proportions, and spatial arrangements of the stones. Could these constructions represent a prehistoric dialogue between humans and the cosmos, a language of stone that communicates ideas we have only begun to interpret? The landscape itself adds to the sense of mystery. Perched on cliff tops, the temples command sweeping views of the surrounding countryside and the Mediterranean horizon. The wind, the sound of the waves crashing below, and the ever-present light of the sun create an atmosphere that is at once serene and imposing. One can almost imagine ancient pilgrims approaching the site, carrying offerings, performing rites, and pausing to observe the heavens through the careful openings in stone walls. Yet, as much as the site invites imagination, it resists definitive interpretation, leaving modern observers to ponder questions as old as the stones themselves. Walking through Hagar today, one is struck by the combination of permanence and mystery. The megaliths, silent and immovable, preserve the memory of a people whose beliefs, knowledge, and intentions are only partially visible to us. The site invites reflection on human ingenuity, the persistence of culture, and the ways in which ancient societies sought to understand their place in the world. Every stone, every carving, and every alignment is a clue, yet the full story remains tantalizingly out of reach. What drove the builders of Hagar to create such massive structures? Were these temples purely for ritual, or did they also serve as calendars, observatories, or symbols of political and social cohesion? How much knowledge, skill, and belief has been lost to the ages, leaving only these stones to hint at a civilization both sophisticated and enigmatic? And might the surrounding landscape, its caves, rock formations, and vantage points, hold further secrets that await discovery? The Hagar temples endure as silent witnesses to human ambition, creativity, and curiosity. They remind us that even in the distant past, societies grappled with questions of life, death, and the cosmos, expressing their understanding in stone that has outlasted generations. As the wind moves across Malta's cliffs and the sun illuminates the ancient altars, these monuments continue to whisper across millennia, inviting contemplation, curiosity, and the recognition that some mysteries, no matter how ancient, remain alive for those willing to observe carefully and wonder deeply. From the sun-drenched cliffs of Malta, where the Hagar temples stand as silent witnesses to human ingenuity and devotion, our journey now crosses continents and oceans, bringing us to the high-altitude plains of the Andes in Bolivia. Here, at more than 12,000 feet above sea level, lies the ancient city of Tiahuanaco, a site whose monumental architecture and mysterious artifacts continue to challenge our understanding of pre-Columbian civilizations. Among these relics, none is more enigmatic or more evocative than the Gate of the Sun, a massive monolith carved from a single block of stone, standing as a gateway through both space and time. The Gate of the Sun commands attention immediately. Measuring over 3 meters high and nearly 4 meters wide, the stone is adorned with intricate bas-reliefs that depict a central figure surrounded by rows of winged beings, symbols, and geometric patterns. The detail is astonishing. Carved with precision into a dense volcanic rock, the motifs are sharp and symmetrical, enduring centuries of exposure to harsh highland winds, sun, and rain. As one examines the stone, it becomes clear that this is no mere decoration. Every line, every symbol seems to carry intent, purpose, and a meaning now lost to history. Tiahuanaco itself thrived between 400 and 1000 CE, its influence spanning much of the southern Andes. Yet the Gate of the Sun appears to predate many of the constructions surrounding it, hinting at an even older legacy embedded in the stone. Archaeologists have debated its purpose for decades. Was it a ceremonial gateway, a marker of astronomical phenomena, or a symbolic portal connecting the terrestrial and spiritual worlds? The precise alignment of the gate with solar events, particularly during solstices, suggests that the ancients possessed a sophisticated understanding of celestial patterns, knowledge that they encoded into stone with extraordinary skill. The central figure carved into the gate is often identified as the staff god, a deity depicted holding 2 scepters or staffs flanked by smaller figures with wings or rays extending outward. This iconography resonates with other Andean cultures, yet the combination of style, symbolism, and sheer craftsmanship is unique. The repeated motifs of winged beings, each seemingly radiating from the central figure, evoke questions about cosmology, ritual, and belief. Were these figures guardians, celestial attendants, or representations of natural forces? And why did the builders feel compelled to encode such complex imagery in a single monolith? Transport and construction only add to the enigma. The gate is carved from a massive andesite block, quarried several kilometers from the site itself. Moving, shaping, and erecting such a stone without metal tools or modern machinery would have required not only ingenuity, but extraordinary coordination and effort. How did the people of Tiahuanaco achieve this feat? Were they guided by practical engineering, religious devotion, or a combination of both? And does the placement of the gate within the city hold further meaning, suggesting ceremonial pathways, sightlines, or alignments with other structures now partially lost to time? Speculative interpretations abound, fueled by both the gate's artistry and the scarcity of written records. Some researchers suggest that the symbols may encode calendrical or astronomical information, tracking solar cycles, solstices, or agricultural patterns. Others propose more esoteric ideas, that the gate represents a cosmogram, a symbolic map of the universe, integrating human, terrestrial, and celestial elements in one grand visual statement. Could the Tiahuanaco people have possessed knowledge of the heavens that surpassed their contemporaries, encoded subtly in stone for generations to interpret? The gate's design also prompts questions about cultural continuity and influence. Iconographic similarities appear across Andean civilizations, yet the craftsmanship and scale of Tiahuanaco's monuments remain unparalleled. Did the builders of the gate draw upon older traditions, or were they innovators creating an entirely new visual language? How much knowledge has been lost, buried beneath centuries of earth, stone, and cultural upheaval, leaving only fragments to tantalize modern imagination? Walking among the ruins of Tiahuanaco today, the gate exerts a presence that is both physical and symbolic. Surrounded by eroded platforms, ceremonial courts, and scattered megaliths, it seems to anchor the ancient city, a focal point of ritual, vision, and human endeavor. The high-altitude sun illuminates the carvings in shifting patterns throughout the day, casting shadows that emphasize the depth and intricacy of the reliefs. It is easy to imagine priests, pilgrims, or rulers approaching the gate, tracing the symbols with reverent fingers and understanding meanings now lost to us. Yet, despite centuries of study, the Gate of the Sun remains a profound mystery. Why was it created in this precise form, with these particular motifs? What messages were intended for those who passed beneath it, and what knowledge did it convey to its makers? How much of its meaning has been obscured by time, erosion, and cultural transformation? And are there aspects of Tiahuanaco itself, buried chambers, hidden alignments, or lost texts, that might further illuminate the gate's purpose if only they could be discovered? The Gate of the Sun stands as a testament to human ambition, artistry, and curiosity. It reminds us that ancient civilizations, separated from us by centuries and continents, were capable of extraordinary feats of vision and craftsmanship. Each carved figure, each geometric pattern, is an invitation to look closer, to ponder, and to reflect on the interplay between human creativity, natural forces, and the mysteries that endure long after the civilizations themselves have faded. As we linger in the shadow of the gate, gazing upward at its intricate reliefs and imagining the hands that carved them, one cannot help but wonder, what else lies hidden in the high plains of Tiahuanaco? What knowledge, wisdom, or stories remain encoded in stone, waiting for discovery? And how much more might we learn about the people who once inhabited this extraordinary city, leaving behind monuments that continue to inspire awe and mystery in equal measure? From the windswept high plains of Bolivia, where the Gate of the Sun stands as a testament to ancient ingenuity and celestial understanding, our journey now turns across the Americas to the vast, arid expanse of Nevada. Hidden among rugged hills and high desert valleys lies Lovelock Cave, a site that has fascinated archaeologists, historians, and explorers alike for over a century. Within its shadowed depths, human hands have uncovered traces of lives long past, and, according to some accounts, the remnants of beings so extraordinary that they challenge conventional understanding, the so-called giants of Lovelock Cave. The cave itself is unassuming from the outside, a modest opening in a hillside, blending into the rocky landscape. Yet step inside, and the environment transforms. Stalactites hang from the ceiling, the air is cool and dry, and the walls are etched with layers of sediment preserving thousands of years of human and natural activity. It is within this quiet, almost sacred interior that early excavators discovered not only tools, pottery, and animal remains, but also skeletal fragments that some claimed belonged to individuals of extraordinary height and robustness. These finds immediately set Lovelock Cave apart from typical archaeological sites in North America. Excavations, particularly those carried out in the early 20th century, revealed a rich repository of artifacts. Duck decoys carved from reeds, intricately woven baskets, and projectile points, all pointing to a sophisticated and resourceful hunter-gatherer culture known as the Paiute. Among these objects, reports emerged of unusually large human bones, suggesting individuals significantly taller and more robust than the average population of the region. Skeletal measurements indicated heights far beyond normal ranges, with robust limbs and thick cranial bones, sparking both intrigue and debate. Mainstream archaeology acknowledges the cave's significance as a cultural and ritual site, noting its use for storage, habitation, and ceremonial purposes over centuries. Yet the purported presence of giants has long fueled speculation and fascination. Were these reports accurate, or were the bones simply misinterpreted? Could environmental factors, genetic diversity, or preservation methods have contributed to the extraordinary appearance of the remains? And if some of these individuals were indeed unusually large, what might this reveal about the people who inhabited North America before recorded history? Some of the most tantalizing elements of Lovelock Cave lie not only in human remains, but in the context surrounding them. The cave contains layers of habitation interspersed with animal bones, fire pits, and evidence of ritual activity. Certain skeletal arrangements suggest intentional placement, perhaps as part of burial practices, while other finds, larger than average skulls and long bones, hint at anomalies that defy easy explanation. Were these anomalies the result of natural variation, or could they point to a population subset with unique characteristics, now largely lost to time? Speculative theories have arisen over the decades. Some suggest that the cave may have housed individuals of unusual stature for reasons not yet fully understood, genetic outliers perhaps, or a group isolated from surrounding populations. Others interpret the findings through mythic or folkloric lenses, noting that Paiute oral traditions speak of Site-Ka, legendary red-haired giants said to have roamed the region in antiquity. While the line between legend and archaeology is difficult to draw, these stories raise fascinating questions about how communities interpret and remember unusual events or beings in their past. Could the oral histories encode kernels of truth about a population now vanished? The logistics of survival for such extraordinary individuals also intrigue researchers. Living in the high desert of Nevada would have required skill, endurance, and adaptation. If the skeletal measurements are accurate, these individuals would have needed more substantial nutrition, protection, and social support than the average hunter-gatherer. Could this imply a highly organized society with structures for provisioning and community cohesion? Or does it point to a rare phenomenon, individuals who stood apart from the norm and left traces both physical and cultural? Walking through Lovelock Cave today, it is easy to sense the layers of time pressing down. Each stone, each sediment layer, carries the weight of countless generations. The artifacts speak of ingenuity and daily life, while the skeletal remains whisper of mysteries unresolved. One imagines families navigating the cave's shadows, hunters processing game, or ceremonial rites performed with reverence. And yet, despite careful study, the cave continues to resist complete understanding, preserving its secrets as surely as the desert preserves its silence. The debate over the so-called giants reminds us of the delicate balance between evidence, interpretation, and imagination. How much of the story is encoded in the bones themselves, and how much is projected by the fascination they inspire? Are we glimpsing a real, extraordinary facet of human variation, or encountering the convergence of myth and reality shaped over generations? And what other evidence might remain buried in sediment, waiting for careful excavation or fortunate discovery to illuminate these questions further? Lovelock Cave endures as a site of both wonder and inquiry. It challenges assumptions about human history in North America, suggesting that even in landscapes seemingly well-studied, anomalies and mysteries may persist. The cave is a reminder that the past is layered, complex, and often resistant to simple narratives. Every artifact, every bone, and every shadowed corner invites reflection on what has been lost, what has survived, and what might still be discovered. As we linger in the quiet interior of Lovelock Cave, surrounded by artifacts of ingenuity and skeletal remnants of extraordinary proportions, we are compelled to ask, what else lies hidden in the hills and valleys of the Great Basin? How many stories of ancient peoples, extraordinary individuals, or lost traditions remain buried, awaiting patient eyes and careful hands? And most profoundly, what does the cave teach us about the limits of our understanding and the enduring mysteries of human history that refuse to be fully explained? From the hidden depths of Lovelock Cave, where whispers of extraordinary human variation hint at mysteries long buried beneath the Nevada desert, our journey now spans continents once more, taking us to the rolling plains and limestone hills of eastern China. Here, in Zhejiang province, lies one of the most astonishing and least understood architectural enigmas of the ancient world, the Longyou chambers, a network of vast subterranean caverns hewn entirely by human hands, yet defying conventional explanation. At first glance, the Longyou chambers appear as ordinary excavations, partially concealed beneath farmland and misted hills. Yet, as one descends into their depths, the scale and craftsmanship of these chambers emerge in breathtaking clarity. Each cavern stretches tens of meters in length, width, and height, with ceilings supported by precisely carved pillars and walls marked with uniform grooves, seemingly etched in a deliberate and consistent pattern. The stone is dense, hard siltstone, and yet every surface exhibits meticulous attention to detail, as if each line were part of a larger, unseen blueprint. Walking through the caverns, one is struck by both the vast emptiness and the intimate precision of the work, a paradox of human achievement and mystery. Archaeologists date the Longyou chambers to at least 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, though no inscriptions, artifacts, or records have been found to indicate their creators, purpose, or methods. The absence of written explanation only deepens the intrigue. How did laborers remove hundreds of thousands of tons of rock with tools that should have limited their efficiency? How did they achieve such structural stability without modern engineering, ensuring that ceilings spanning tens of meters remained intact for millennia? And why, after such extraordinary effort, was the site seemingly abandoned and concealed, left without record or explanation. Mainstream hypotheses suggest practical purposes. Perhaps the chambers were storage facilities, hideouts, or even water reservoirs. Yet these explanations struggle to account for the immense scale, uniformity, and sophistication of the spaces. There are no traces of tools left behind, no evidence of habitation, and no accompanying infrastructure, such as ventilation shafts, that might be expected in such large subterranean constructions. The precision of the walls and pillars hints at knowledge of load distribution and structural balance far ahead of what historical texts credit to the region at that time. Speculation extends further when considering the patterns etched into the walls. Grooves and striations run in regular sequences, often in directions that suggest an understanding of spatial rhythm, acoustics, or symbolic design. Some researchers propose that these markings could encode information, mathematical, astronomical, or ritualistic, now lost to us. Could the chambers themselves have functioned as sacred spaces, designed to amplify sound, focus meditation, or connect with cosmic events? And if so, why would such effort have been invested without leaving a clear record for posterity? The sheer labor required to construct the Longyou chambers is staggering. Estimates suggest that thousands of tons of rock were removed, each piece carefully shaped and placed, and yet no nearby quarry has been conclusively linked to the site. Transport, shaping, and excavation of this magnitude imply an organized workforce, sophisticated planning, and methods that remain unknown. Could there have been techniques, mechanical, chemical, or architectural, that have since been forgotten, allowing ancient engineers to achieve what today seems impossible with simple tools? Walking through the chambers, one is also struck by the scale relative to human presence. The vast open spaces dwarf even modern visitors, and the carefully aligned pillars create a rhythm that evokes awe and a subtle sense of disorientation. Some chambers appear to be deliberately symmetrical, almost ceremonial, while others are irregular yet equally precise. What guided the creators in their design choices? Was there a unified plan, or did each chamber serve a distinct purpose, understood fully only by those who built them? Further layers of mystery emerge when considering the broader context. The Longyou chambers are not isolated. Additional caverns have been discovered nearby, each with similar scale, design, and finish. The consistency suggests a shared cultural or engineering knowledge that has left no written record. Were these chambers part of a larger complex, perhaps a forgotten city, temple network, or knowledge repository? And if so, what drove their concealment, and why has subsequent history left them unmentioned? The Longyou chambers also challenge our assumptions about ancient societies. They are neither tombs nor conventional dwellings, yet they display a level of craftsmanship, spatial awareness, and foresight that suggests a civilization with both ambition and vision. Every carved line, every polished surface, invites reflection on human ingenuity and on the limitations of our understanding. How many other marvels, now lost, may have existed in the same era, silently awaiting rediscovery? Descending into the shadows of these caverns today, one cannot escape a profound sense of mystery. The air is cool, still, and carries the echo of centuries, and the faint light of a torch casts monumental shadows along the grooved walls. There is a palpable tension between awe and uncertainty, a recognition that human hands created something both extraordinary and inexplicable. And as one traces the patterns, measures the spaces, and contemplates the immense effort required, questions emerge that remain unanswered. Who built the Longyou chambers, and why? What knowledge, skill, or ritual purpose drove them to carve these vast voids? And how much of their meaning remains concealed, lost to the passage of millennia? The Longyou chambers endure as a silent testament to human ambition, skill, and mystery. They remind us that even in a world increasingly mapped, measured, and catalogued, there remain places that defy explanation, inviting reflection on what humans are capable of, and on the secrets still buried, waiting for patient eyes and thoughtful minds to uncover. As we step back into the light of the present, the cavern's shadows linger, and the questions they provoke echo as loudly as the grooves carved into the walls. What lies hidden beneath the surface of history, and how much remains just beyond our grasp? From the hidden depths of the Longyou chambers, where immense subterranean spaces speak of human ingenuity and enigmas lost to time, our journey now turns to the ancient heart of Mesopotamia, a land often called the cradle of civilization. Here, amid the arid plains and meandering tributaries of the Tigris and Euphrates, archaeologists have uncovered a collection of artifacts that continue to challenge historians and linguists alike: the Baghdad Cuneiform tablets. These clay relics, inscribed with wedge-shaped characters, appear ordinary at first glance, yet the information they preserve, and the questions they raise, are anything but. The tablets themselves are modest in size, fitting comfortably in the palm of a hand, yet each is dense with detail. The surface of each clay rectangle bears meticulous impressions of cuneiform script, the earliest known form of writing, created by pressing a stylus into soft clay before it hardened in the sun or kiln. Some tablets are thick with densely packed characters, others are thin and more concise, and yet all share a precision that conveys both purpose and permanence. Touching one, it is easy to imagine a scribe of thousands of years ago pressing wedge into clay, aware that his words might endure beyond lifetimes, yet unaware of the mysteries their contents would inspire millennia later. Radiocarbon dating and stylistic analysis place many of these tablets in the first millennium BCE, though some appear older, suggesting a continuity of record-keeping over centuries. Most cuneiform tablets are understood as records of trade, law, or administration. They catalog grain, livestock, transactions, and decrees. Yet the Baghdad collection contains texts that defy simple categorization. Among economic records, there are references to astronomical events, complex calculations, and observations that seem to transcend the practical concerns of ordinary bureaucrats. What compelled ancient scribes to encode such abstract knowledge alongside mundane records? The content of certain tablets has inspired particular intrigue. Some passages reference celestial phenomena with surprising accuracy, alignments of stars, eclipses, or cycles of the moon, suggesting that the scribes possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge. How did these early observers achieve such precision without telescopes or modern instrumentation? Were these observations based purely on generations of careful tracking, or could they reflect a deeper understanding of patterns in the heavens that has since been partially lost? The very act of creating and preserving these tablets adds to their mystery. Clay, once fired, is durable but brittle, yet thousands of tablets survived wars, floods, and centuries of shifting empires. How were they stored, cataloged, and protected to survive through time and chaos? And why do some tablets appear isolated, found far from centers of known Mesopotamian settlement, hinting at networks of knowledge and trade whose full extent remains invisible to us? Speculative interpretations of the Baghdad cuneiform tablets have arisen precisely because of these anomalies. Some scholars suggest that the astronomical observations encoded within the texts may have served ritual or calendrical purposes, guiding agricultural and ceremonial cycles. Others propose that certain calculations and symbolic notations may reflect a proto-scientific understanding of the cosmos, a kind of early astronomy and mathematics far more sophisticated than traditionally assumed. Could these tablets represent a repository of knowledge that combined practical administration with philosophical and scientific inquiry, a window into the intellectual life of ancient Mesopotamia? Yet challenges abound. The tablets are fragmentary, sometimes damaged or worn, leaving gaps in understanding that invite interpretation, but resist certainty. Translating cuneiform is painstaking, requiring not only linguistic skill, but contextual knowledge of culture, mathematics, and history. Even when deciphered, the meaning of some inscriptions is ambiguous. Are they literal records, symbolic references, or mnemonic devices for teaching and ritual? And in cases where astronomical or technical content appears, what was the intended purpose? Practical prediction, religious observance, or something else entirely? Walking through collections of these tablets today, whether in Baghdad, London, or other repositories, one is struck by their duality. They are at once mundane and extraordinary, administrative and transcendent, physical and intellectual. Each tablet is a fragment of human endeavor, a tangible link between past and present, yet it also gestures toward knowledge and understanding that may forever elude us. How many of these inscriptions encode concepts we have yet to fully grasp? How much knowledge was accumulated, transmitted, and ultimately lost in the deserts, rivers, and cities of Mesopotamia? The Baghdad cuneiform tablets also raise profound questions about memory, preservation, and the human desire to record existence. They remind us that writing itself is a bridge across time, a way of asserting permanence in a world defined by change. Yet, paradoxically, they also reveal the limits of our understanding. What was known, what was intended, and what was lost. These remain open questions, urging careful study, reflection, and humility before the breadth of human history. As we trace the impressions of the stylus on clay, we are drawn into a world of meticulous observation, complex thought, and intellectual ambition. We see the scribes as both chroniclers and participants in a civilization that shaped the future in ways still visible today. And yet, amid their records, mysteries persist. Were some tablets intended to convey esoteric knowledge meant only for a select few? Did they encode ideas about the heavens, the cycles of nature, or mathematics that have no direct parallel in surviving texts? And what might the surviving fragments be hiding, waiting for the next generation of researchers to illuminate their secrets? The Baghdad cuneiform tablets endure as silent witnesses to human curiosity, intellect, and mystery. They remind us that even in the earliest civilizations, humans grappled with questions of existence, cosmos, and knowledge, recording their observations with care and intent. And as we study them today, the tablets whisper across millennia, inviting us to wonder, to question, and to consider that some of the greatest mysteries of human history are written not in monuments or ruins, but in the careful, enduring impressions of clay. From the heart of Mesopotamia, where the wedge-shaped impressions of ancient scribes on the Baghdad cuneiform tablets preserve a civilization's intellect and mystery, our journey now returns to the rugged landscapes of northern Europe. In the rolling hills near Glasgow, Scotland, lies a hidden canvas of human expression carved directly into the earth, the Cochno petroglyphs. Unlike tablets or monuments, these carvings lie flush with the natural rock, a complex labyrinth of geometric patterns, spirals, and symbols that have intrigued scholars, archaeologists, and curious visitors for nearly a century. The site itself is unassuming, a stretch of exposed sandstone, partially overgrown and weathered by wind and rain, conceals beneath its surface an extraordinary record of prehistoric artistry. What initially appears as shallow grooves quickly reveals itself as a deliberate, sprawling composition. Hundreds of individual carvings etched in concentric circles, cup marks, cup and ring motifs, and labyrinthine lines, each precisely executed. The carvings are shallow yet enduring, their continuity suggesting careful planning, repeated attention, and a symbolic purpose that remains elusive. Archaeologists date the Cochno petroglyphs to the Bronze Age, around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, though similar motifs in Scotland and across Europe suggest a broader, long-standing tradition of cup and ring art. The sheer density and complexity of the carvings at Cochno, however, are unparalleled in the region. Scholars have noted the extraordinary variation in size, depth, and orientation, and the interplay of patterns that seem to overlay earlier work, as if generations of hands contributed to the same canvas over centuries. Why were these symbols so important to these ancient peoples that they invested such meticulous effort into their creation? Mainstream interpretations propose ritual or ceremonial functions. Some suggest the petroglyphs mark sacred or cosmological spaces, sites for rites, offerings, or gatherings. Others argue they could map territorial boundaries, water sources, or astronomical phenomena, using abstract patterns as a symbolic language. Yet none of these theories fully account for the scale, density, and precision of the carvings. Could there have been knowledge encoded within the arrangements, a symbolic system now lost, bridging the terrestrial and the cosmic in ways we cannot yet decipher? The Cochno petroglyphs are remarkable not only for their patterns, but for their endurance. Carved into sandstone exposed to Scotland's harsh weather, they have survived thousands of years of wind, rain, frost, and human interference. In 1965, authorities buried the site to protect it from vandalism, adding another layer of mystery and inaccessibility. How did such delicate lines withstand the passage of time before modern intervention? And what secrets lie just beneath the surface, hidden until careful excavation or natural erosion reveals them once more? The symbols themselves provoke both fascination and speculation. Spirals, labyrinths, and cup and ring motifs recur in multiple forms, their placement deliberate yet enigmatic. Some alignments suggest solar or lunar correlations, hinting at prehistoric astronomical observation. Others appear purely abstract, their meaning potentially symbolic, spiritual, or mnemonic. Could the patterns serve as maps of human cognition, reflections of cosmology, or encoded knowledge passed through generations? Or do they represent something more personal and local, a form of prehistoric expression whose significance is forever partially obscured by time? Some researchers have gone further, noting the sheer scale of the site and the precision of the carvings. Certain motifs are repeated with near-perfect symmetry, while others suggest a narrative progression or intentional layering. Could this indicate a sophisticated understanding of geometry, pattern, or ritual sequencing? Was Cochno a central hub for cultural transmission, where ideas, beliefs, or knowledge were inscribed in stone for generations to interpret? And if so, how much of that knowledge has been irrevocably lost, leaving only the visual residue of a culture whose full worldview remains elusive? Walking across the stone today, one is struck by the interplay of permanence and ephemerality. The carvings are at once tangible, enduring, and immediate, yet their meaning remains distant, tantalizingly out of reach. Each cup mark, each spiral, seems to whisper of lives lived in a world both familiar and alien, of rituals, observations, and human curiosity that resonate across millennia. How did the Bronze Age inhabitants of the Clyde Valley perceive their landscape, their skies, and their place in the world? And what motivated them to render such elaborate designs in stone, a labor-intensive medium that would endure far beyond their own lifetimes? The petroglyphs also invite reflection on human expression and memory. They remind us that even before written language, humans sought to communicate, record, and interpret their world in symbolic form. Yet, unlike a tablet or monument with explicit instructions, the Cochno petroglyphs offer no key, no Rosetta Stone, only patterns and forms preserved in rock. How much of prehistoric thought, belief and knowledge is lost to time? And how much can be glimpsed, interpreted, or imagined through careful study, observation, and contemplation? As we linger over the grooves and spirals of Cochno, tracing their lines with our eyes and imagining the hands that carved them, a sense of continuity and mystery emerges. The site endures as both art and enigma, a canvas of human creativity frozen in stone. Its questions are not easily answered. What did these symbols mean to those who made them, and what messages, cosmological, spiritual, or practical, might they contain for us today? And perhaps most compellingly, what other carvings, buried beneath soil or hidden across the landscape, await discovery, preserving secrets that could illuminate the minds and lives of our distant ancestors? The Cochno petroglyphs remain a silent testament to the imagination, skill, and curiosity of Bronze Age peoples. They invite us to slow down, to look closely, and to reflect on the enduring human impulse to leave a mark, to communicate across time, and to engage with the mysteries of existence. In the grooves and spirals of the stone, the past reaches out, urging us to wonder, to question, and to remember that some of the most profound enigmas of human history lie not in written words, but in the enduring enigmatic lines etched directly into the earth. From the rolling hills of Scotland, where the Cochno petroglyphs preserve enigmatic symbols carved into stone by Bronze Age hands, our journey now turns to the windswept coastline of southern England, to the county of Dorset. Here, along the rugged cliffs and tranquil river valleys, archaeologists have uncovered a discovery that is as unsettling as it is mysterious. The remains of individuals believed to be Vikings, many of whom were found decapitated, their heads removed in a manner that raises both questions and theories about violence, ritual, and societal norms in early medieval Britain. The Dorset landscape is deceptively serene. Rolling pastures stretch toward the English Channel, rivers meander quietly, and the cliffs rise dramatically against the horizon. Beneath this peaceful veneer lie the echoes of a tumultuous past, captured in skeletal remains that tell a story of life, death, and cultural contact, or perhaps conflict, that continues to puzzle researchers. The discovery of these headless skeletons immediately sets them apart from typical burial practices, inviting speculation about their identities, their lives, and the circumstances of their deaths. Archaeologists date the remains to the Viking Age, roughly between the 9th and 11th centuries CE, a period marked by Norse exploration, settlement, and raiding across the British Isles. Isotopic analysis of the bones suggests Scandinavian origins, linking the individuals to the broader network of Viking movement across Europe. Yet, it is the unusual condition of the burials, the absence of heads, the placement of bodies, and occasional associated artifacts, that has prompted both intrigue and debate. Were these executions, ritual killings, or the result of violent conflict between Viking invaders and local populations? Or might there be a more complex explanation, one that blends cultural practice with social and symbolic meaning? Mainstream interpretations suggest that decapitation was often a method of execution, punishment, or deterrence. In some cases, it may have served as a posthumous display of power, signaling to others the consequences of transgression or rebellion. Yet, the Dorset discoveries do not fit neatly into these categories. Some skeletons appear to have been carefully positioned, their heads removed without evidence of chaotic violence. In other cases, the burial context hints at possible ritual significance. Could these decapitations have been symbolic, perhaps reflecting beliefs about the afterlife, spiritual protection, or societal control? And if so, how were these practices informed by Norse customs, local traditions, or a combination of both? The condition of the bones also raises practical questions. Many of the skeletons are remarkably well preserved, allowing for detailed study of age, sex, health, and trauma. Some individuals show evidence of healed injuries, suggesting that they survived previous conflicts or hardships, while others bear clear marks of violence consistent with beheading. What circumstances led to the deaths of these individuals, and why were their heads removed? Was this a common practice in Dorset, or an isolated phenomenon reflecting a particular event, group, or societal choice? Speculative theories abound, fueled by both the historical context and the human imagination. Some scholars suggest that these burials may represent the aftermath of a punitive action, perhaps against raiders or deserters. Others propose ritualistic interpretations, where decapitation served as a symbolic act to sever spiritual ties, prevent return from the dead, or mark the passage from one world to another. Could the Headless Vikings have been part of a larger pattern of culturally specific burial rites, now partially lost to history? And how much of their story is recorded in the stones, landscapes, and oral traditions that survive alongside the physical remains? The landscape itself amplifies the mystery. Dorset's cliffs, river valleys, and ancient trackways provide both strategic vantage points and secluded areas, places where life and death could unfold with dramatic consequence. One can imagine small Viking contingents traveling through these valleys, establishing temporary encampments and encountering both allies and adversaries. The quiet beauty of the modern landscape belies the turbulence of its past, where conflicts, alliances, and ritual practices intertwined in ways that we can only attempt to reconstruct from fragmentary evidence. Walking among these remains today, one is confronted by the tension between human mortality and historical mystery. The skeletons are silent, yet their stories resonate, of movement across continents, of encounters between cultures, and of practices, violent, ritual, or otherwise, that challenge our assumptions about the past. How did these individuals live? What did they believe? And what circumstances led to their unusual deaths? And most poignantly, what does the removal of the head signify, both practically and symbolically, within the larger context of Viking and local British society? The Headless Vikings of Dorset compel reflection on human behavior, societal norms, and the intersection of culture, violence, and ritual. They remind us that even in periods well studied by historians, anomalies persist, remnants of choices, beliefs, and events that defy easy explanation. Each skeleton, each mark of trauma, and each carefully positioned burial invites contemplation, urging us to consider the lives, deaths, and intentions of people whose voices are silent, but whose presence endures in the earth. As we linger in the shadow of Dorset's cliffs, examining the evidence left behind, questions remain. Were these individuals victims of war, ritual, or a combination of both? What do the patterns of decapitation reveal about the interplay of power, spirituality, and cultural practice in early medieval England? And, perhaps most provocatively, what other traces of human action, hidden in soil, stone, or memory, await discovery, capable of reshaping our understanding of history and the human story? The Headless Vikings endure as both a historical and archaeological enigma, a silent testament to the complexity, creativity, and sometimes brutality of human societies. They challenge us to think beyond conventional narratives, to probe the space between evidence and interpretation, and to acknowledge that even in a landscape as familiar as southern England, mysteries remain, waiting for careful eyes, thoughtful minds, and patient exploration to bring them closer to understanding. From the windswept cliffs of Dorset, where the Headless Vikings bear silent witness to the mysteries of life, death, and ritual in early medieval England, our journey now returns to the east, to the sprawling plains of central China. Here, near the city of Xi'an in Shanxi province, lies one of the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring archaeological sites in the world, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. Unlike other burial sites, this mausoleum has never been fully excavated, its secrets preserved beneath a massive mound, inviting speculation, reverence, and an enduring sense of mystery. From a distance, the tomb appears deceptively simple, a vast earthen mound rising above the surrounding landscape, its sheer scale dominating the fields around it. But beneath this unassuming surface lies a complex network of subterranean chambers, tunnels, and an elaborate underground city constructed to mirror, protect, and honor the emperor in the afterlife. The mound itself, measuring approximately 76 meters high and covering more than 56 hectares, has withstood centuries of weather, warfare, and human curiosity. It is both a monument to the emperor's power and a silent guardian of secrets yet unrevealed. Historical records, including the writings of the Han Dynasty historian Sima Qian, provide tantalizing glimpses of what might lie within. According to these accounts, the tomb was designed as a miniature world, complete with palaces, rivers of mercury, and celestial representations. Terracotta warriors, each with individualized features, were buried in precise military formations surrounding the emperor, intended to serve him in the afterlife. The scale of this undertaking is staggering. Tens of thousands of soldiers, chariots, and horses crafted from clay, painted in vivid detail, each standing ready to protect their sovereign in perpetuity. The Terracotta Army, discovered in 1974, offers only a partial window into the emperor's vision. Thousands of these figures have been unearthed, yet the main burial chamber remains untouched, its contents shielded by both time and caution. Modern archaeologists have refrained from fully excavating the tomb, wary of damaging what may be an unparalleled repository of ancient art, technology, and ritual. Chemical analysis suggests the presence of high levels of mercury in the soil, corroborating historical accounts of mercury rivers, intended to mimic waterways and perhaps symbolically convey immortality or cosmic order. Could such mercury have preserved unknown treasures, documents, or mechanical devices designed to replicate the emperor's earthly dominion? The engineering of the tomb itself is a marvel, and in many ways, a riddle. Ancient texts describe a network of booby-trapped corridors, crossbows rigged to fire on intruders, and mechanisms designed to protect the sanctity of the emperor's resting place. Modern investigations using ground-penetrating radar have detected anomalies consistent with these descriptions. Yet the exact arrangement, scale, and purpose of these protective measures remain uncertain. How were such sophisticated designs conceived and executed over 2 millennia ago, with tools and materials we might now consider rudimentary? And what knowledge or ritual expertise guided the builders in balancing practicality, symbolism, and cosmic alignment? Beyond the engineering, the tomb invites deeper contemplation of the emperor's psychology, belief system, and worldview. Qin Shi Huang, who ruled from 221 to 210 BCE, was obsessed with immortality, power, and the consolidation of his empire. The terracotta warriors and the sprawling underground complex may reflect not only his desire for protection in death, but also a vision of eternity, a projection of earthly authority into the afterlife. Were the rivers of mercury symbolic of the flow of life and cosmic order, or a literal attempt to defy mortality? Did the construction of this underground world draw upon philosophical, astrological, or religious principles that are only partially preserved in surviving texts? Speculative theories abound, fueled both by the emperor's historical reputation and by the scale of the tomb. Some researchers suggest the possibility of mechanical devices or astronomical instruments buried within, designed to track celestial movements or simulate the emperor's dominion over heaven and earth. Others consider the symbolic dimensions, the tomb as a map of the known world, a miniature representation of the empire's provinces, military structure, and administrative order. Could the mausoleum itself be a treatise in stone, clay, and earth, encoding knowledge, ideology, and cosmic symbolism for eternity? The tomb also raises questions about preservation and mortality. Centuries of sediment, flooding, and vegetation growth have shielded the site, yet these same forces pose threats to the delicate artwork, pigments, and materials hidden within. How much of the emperor's vision remains intact? And how might future excavation, guided by technology or new methodologies, reveal innovations, craftsmanship, or information that challenges our understanding of ancient China? The tension between discovery and preservation adds to the aura of mystery, emphasizing the delicate balance between curiosity and respect for a site of unparalleled historical significance. Walking around the mound today, it is easy to sense the ambition, fear, and vision of the first emperor. The sheer scale of the site conveys authority, while the meticulous detail of the terracotta army offers a glimpse into the human creativity required to realize such a monumental project. The untouched burial chamber beneath the surface looms as a reminder that history is both tangible and elusive, waiting for careful eyes to decipher its messages. What did Qin Shi Huang hope to achieve in death that he could not in life? And how much of his world, preserved underground, will reveal itself only when we are ready, or not at all? The tomb also invites reflection on the limits of human knowledge. We have uncovered portions of the terracotta army, examined surface features, and analyzed soil chemistry. Yet the main chamber, the heart of the emperor's afterlife vision, remains a mystery. What treasures, inscriptions, or innovations lie hidden within? How did the builders coordinate such an immense workforce, sourced materials, and executed construction with extraordinary precision and artistic mastery? And what insights might the tomb hold about the political, spiritual, and scientific knowledge of ancient China that has otherwise been lost to history? The tomb of Qin Shi Huang stands as a monument not only to one of history's most powerful rulers, but to human ambition, imagination, and the quest for immortality. It is a place where history, myth, and archaeology intersect, inviting us to reflect on the intersection of life and death, art and engineering, belief and action. And as we contemplate the vast underground chambers, the rivers of mercury, and the legions of terracotta warriors, a sense of both awe and uncertainty persists. How much of the emperor's world has yet to be revealed, and how many of the mysteries buried beneath that monumental mound will remain beyond our grasp for generations to come? Beneath the surface of Xi'an's plains lies a silent city, awaiting the day when its secrets may be fully understood. Until then, the tomb endures as a testament to human creativity, ambition, and the enduring allure of mystery. An invitation to ponder the extraordinary lengths to which one man went to assert power, transcend mortality, and shape the afterlife itself. And as we stand at the edge of the mound, imagining what lies below, we are compelled to ask, what remains hidden in the heart of history, waiting to reveal itself only to those patient, careful, and curious enough to uncover it? From the sprawling plains of Xi'an, where the tomb of Qin Shi Huang holds the secrets of an emperor and a civilization's ambition buried beneath layers of earth, our journey now spans continents once more, descending into the arid expanse of northern Chile. Here lies the Atacama Desert, a landscape of stark beauty and unforgiving extremity, where sun-scorched plains meet jagged mountains, and where archaeologists have uncovered a discovery that challenges our understanding of human biology and history, the so-called Giant of Atacama. The desert itself is immediately arresting. Endless dunes stretch toward the horizon, punctuated by rock formations carved by millennia of wind and erosion. The air shimmers with heat during the day and plunges into near-freezing temperatures at night. Within this harsh environment, life survives in sparse pockets, resilient and adaptive. And it is here, amidst this inhospitable terrain, that a tiny, desiccated skeletal figure was discovered, measuring approximately 6 inches in height, with an elongated skull, ribcage, and limbs that differ in proportion and structure from typical human anatomy. Though the body is diminutive, the implications of its form have captured the attention and imagination of scientists and the public alike. Radiocarbon dating places the skeleton's origin around 1,000 years ago, situating it in a period when the Atacama region was home to indigenous cultures such as the Atacameños, who had developed complex societies adapted to desert life. Yet the anatomical features of the skeleton diverge in striking ways from any known human population. Its elongated cranium, unusually shaped jaw, and reduced number of ribs suggest developmental anomalies or genetic divergence. How did a being with such proportions come into existence, and what might this tell us about the limits of human variation, mutation, or adaptation? Mainstream scientific explanations tend to focus on pathological or genetic conditions. Researchers have considered forms of dwarfism, congenital disorders, or cranial deformation, the latter known to have been practiced by many ancient cultures through binding and shaping of infants' heads. Yet many experts acknowledge that the skeletal morphology does not align neatly with these conditions. The bones exhibit unusual rigidity, density, and structure, and certain features, such as the apparent fusion of joints and the shape of the ribcage, do not match standard human developmental patterns. Could this be an example of a genetic anomaly preserved in isolation? Or does it hint at something more extraordinary, a divergence lost to the annals of history? The discovery itself was shrouded in secrecy for years, only recently emerging into broader scientific and public awareness. Found in a remote burial site alongside ordinary artifacts such as pottery shards, the skeleton was initially thought to be a mummified child. However, subsequent examination revealed that the proportions, bone density, and cranial structure were entirely inconsistent with juvenile human anatomy. Was this an isolated individual, a rare mutation, or part of a population that has left no other trace? And if the latter, what circumstances led to its disappearance and the preservation of only this singular specimen? Speculative theories have flourished, as often happens when conventional explanations fail to satisfy the imagination. Some propose that the skeleton represents an unknown human species or subspecies that survived in isolation for centuries. Others suggest extraterrestrial involvement, a hypothesis fueled by the figure's unusual proportions and enigmatic origin. While such theories capture public fascination, scientists caution against jumping to conclusions without comprehensive genetic, anatomical, and archaeological analysis. Yet the very ambiguity of the discovery keeps the questions alive. What was this being, and what story does it hold about life in the Atacama Desert a millennium ago? The context of the burial also invites contemplation. The skeleton was interred with apparent care, lying on its back, arms folded, in a shallow grave, accompanied by ceramic fragments and other ritual objects typical of local funerary practices. This suggests recognition and perhaps reverence from the surrounding community. If the individual was so anatomically distinct, how was it perceived by contemporaries? Did they regard it as human, sacred, or otherwise significant? And how does this intersect with broader questions about human diversity, adaptation, and the conceptual boundaries of what it means to be human? Modern scientific analysis has brought new tools to the mystery. Imaging techniques, DNA extraction, and isotopic studies are beginning to shed light on ancestry, diet, and physiology. Preliminary genetic results indicate human origin, yet anomalies in the mitochondrial DNA hint at unusual lineage or mutations. These findings have sparked both excitement and caution among experts. Could this represent a previously unknown branch of humanity, a fleeting genetic deviation, or simply an extreme example of developmental variation? And what other remains might yet lie buried beneath the desert sands, waiting to expand or challenge our understanding of human history? The desert environment itself is part of the story. The Atacama is one of the driest places on Earth, its aridity preserving organic material that would normally decay elsewhere. This has allowed the skeleton to endure for centuries, offering a rare glimpse into a past largely erased by time and climate. How many other anomalies, artifacts, or traces of lost cultures might be similarly preserved beneath its sands, undiscovered and awaiting patient, careful investigation? The landscape is both a tomb and a library, its silence concealing more than it reveals. Walking through the dunes, examining the small, delicate bones, one cannot escape a profound sense of wonder. The giant of Atacama challenges our assumptions about biology, adaptation, and the boundaries of human variation. Its diminutive frame and unusual proportions provoke questions that stretch from the microscopic to the cosmic, about evolution, mutation, human perception, and cultural response. And as scientists continue to analyze, compare, and interpret, the skeleton endures as a puzzle, silent but insistent, demanding inquiry and reflection. The discovery also invites philosophical reflection. Even in an era of satellite imaging, DNA sequencing, and global communication, there remain figures, sites, and artifacts that defy simple explanation. What does it mean to encounter something that challenges fundamental assumptions about human history? How do we reconcile scientific methodology with the allure of the unknown? And most provocatively, what other anomalies, hidden, forgotten, or deliberately concealed, might yet emerge from the earth, urging us to expand our understanding of life's diversity and the complexities of the past? The giant of Atacama is a singular, enigmatic presence, a small body carrying immense questions. It stands as both an archaeological curiosity and a symbol of the enduring mysteries of human history. In the desolate, windswept plains of northern Chile, it reminds us that the past is not always neat, comprehensible, or fully documented. Some histories are preserved in stone, some in clay, some in the earth itself, waiting for discovery, patient analysis, and reflection. And as we contemplate the tiny bones, their strange proportions, and the questions they inspire, we are left with a profound realization. In the vast expanse of time and space, there are always mysteries yet to be uncovered, stories yet to be told, and boundaries yet to be tested. From the arid expanses of northern Chile, where the tiny yet enigmatic giant of Atacama challenges our understanding of human biology, our journey now shifts across continents and climates to the rolling hills and dense forests of central Bosnia. Here, near the town of Visoko, lie a series of formations that have sparked intense debate and fascination among archaeologists, historians, and the public alike, the so-called Bosnian pyramids. Rising above the river valley, these massive structures resemble geometric pyramids, their steep, angular slopes sharply contrasting with the surrounding natural landscape. But what are they truly? Natural hills, ancient monuments, or something in between? The terrain of Visoko is both picturesque and dramatic. Hills rise from verdant valleys, rivers carve their way through limestone, and forests stretch along ridges where shadows deepen in the fading light of day. Among these hills, the most striking formations are the purported pyramids, named according to cardinal directions: the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the North, the Pyramid of the South, the Pyramid of the East, the Pyramid of the West, Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the Dragon, and others. From certain angles, the slopes seem unnaturally straight, their triangular profiles perfectly aligned with each other and with celestial markers. Such features immediately raise questions. Are these formations the result of erosion, tectonic forces, or human hands? And if human, what ancient civilization could have undertaken such an ambitious project in this region? Mainstream geologists generally maintain that the pyramids are natural hills, shaped over millennia by geological processes, and point to the lack of definitive evidence for large-scale construction. Yet proponents of the pyramid hypothesis argue that terraces, paved stones, and tunnels discovered on and beneath the slopes suggest purposeful engineering. Excavations have revealed networks of subterranean passages, chambers, and stone blocks that some claim are evidence of deliberate construction. Could these tunnels have served as ceremonial spaces, burial chambers, or repositories of knowledge? And if so, what culture or civilization possessed the organization, skill, and vision to create such structures thousands of years ago? The Pyramid of the Sun, the largest of the formations, rises approximately 220 meters above the valley floor, making it taller than Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. Its orientation, purportedly aligned with the cardinal points, further fuels speculation about astronomical knowledge, ceremonial significance, or symbolic design. Are these alignments coincidental, or do they reflect a deliberate understanding of the heavens by a forgotten culture? Researchers have also noted stone blocks exhibiting unusual wear patterns and arrangements that some interpret as evidence of human manipulation. Could these observations indicate a lost civilization capable of monumental architecture, whose traces have largely vanished beneath the soil and forest? Radiocarbon dating of organic material within the tunnels and on the terraces has produced varied results, suggesting periods of human activity extending back thousands of years. Critics argue that natural processes, sediment deposition, and later human intervention may account for these anomalies, but the sheer scale of the terraces and the alignment of the slopes continue to intrigue. What role, if any, did these hills play in prehistoric human activity in the region? Were they sacred spaces, centers of gathering, or deliberate markers of identity and authority? The tunnels beneath the hills add another layer of mystery. Some passages stretch for kilometers, lined with stones and intersecting in complex networks. Stalactites and mineral deposits within the tunnels suggest great age, yet the presence of stone walls and occasional artifacts hints at modification or usage by humans. Could these subterranean corridors represent an intentional underground city, a sacred labyrinth, or a storage complex for valuable resources? And if they were intentionally constructed, what purpose did they serve, and why has so little evidence of the civilization that created them survived above ground? Speculative interpretations abound. Some propose that the Bosnian pyramids are part of a global network of ancient monuments aligned with energetic ley lines, suggesting an advanced understanding of Earth's geomagnetic properties. Others suggest ceremonial or spiritual functions, positing that the hills and tunnels were designed for meditation, ritual, or even healing. Yet much of the mystery remains precisely because of the tension between natural geological processes and human modification. Could it be that these hills are a combination of both? A natural landscape shaped and enhanced by human hands over generations? Walking the slopes today, one is struck by the interplay between nature and possible human endeavor. The hills rise sharply above the valley, casting long shadows that shift with the sun, while the tunnels beneath whisper of activity long past. Each terrace, each stone invites examination, yet resists definitive explanation. How much of what we see is the product of geology, and how much might be evidence of deliberate action by people whose names and stories have been lost? The landscape itself becomes a dialogue between past and present, nature and human intervention, certainty and speculation. The Bosnian pyramids also highlight the challenges of interpreting evidence in the absence of clear historical records. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, where monumental architecture is corroborated by texts and inscriptions, the Visoko formations are enigmatic in both origin and purpose. Their age, function, and creators remain elusive, leaving room for both skepticism and wonder. Could these structures represent an entirely unknown chapter of European prehistory, a civilization whose knowledge of astronomy, engineering, or ritual practice was sophisticated yet largely forgotten? And if so, what other traces might lie hidden, waiting to be discovered beneath layers of soil, vegetation, and time? As one traverses the terraces or peers into the dim recesses of the tunnels, a sense of awe and curiosity takes hold. The Bosnian pyramids compel us to consider the intersection of natural processes and human intention, and to confront the limits of our understanding. They invite us to question assumptions about the capabilities of ancient societies, the passage of knowledge, and the preservation of monumental efforts across millennia. Are these hills merely natural formations, or are they a testament to ingenuity, belief, and ambition that predates most known civilizations? The mystery of the Bosnian pyramids endures not only in their physical presence, but in the questions they inspire. How did ancient humans interact with this landscape, and what drove them to shape, inhabit, or revere these formations? What knowledge or purpose is encoded in the alignment, structure, and subterranean corridors? And perhaps most compellingly, what remains hidden beneath the earth, waiting for patient, careful exploration to reveal its secrets? In Visoko today, the hills rise quietly above the valley, their sharp contours etched against the sky. The tunnels beneath, still partially unexplored, suggest human ambition, imagination, and effort, while the natural forces of erosion, vegetation, and time continue to shape their surfaces. The Bosnian pyramids invite reflection on history, human capability, and the persistence of mystery. They remind us that even in a world increasingly mapped and measured, there remain places where evidence, interpretation, and imagination converge, urging us to look closer, think deeper, and remain open to the possibility that the past is far richer and far stranger than we often assume. The Bosnian pyramids endure as a silent challenge to our understanding of human history, a landscape where nature and potential human endeavor meet, where certainty and speculation coexist, and where the line between geology and archaeology blurs. They beckon us to explore, to question, and to wonder what stories, knowledge, and ingenuity remain buried, awaiting discovery. And as we stand among these imposing hills, contemplating their terraces and tunnels, we are reminded that the earth itself is a keeper of secrets, and that some of the most profound mysteries of civilization may still lie just beneath our feet, waiting for those with the curiosity, patience, and vision to uncover them. From the enigmatic hills of Visoko, where the Bosnian pyramids rise in angular silence, blending natural formation with tantalizing possibilities of human endeavor, our journey now returns to the rolling chalk downs of southern England. Here, atop the windswept hills of Oxfordshire, lies a figure that has fascinated observers for millennia: the Uffington White Horse. Carved directly into the hillside, this stylized equine stretches over 110 meters in length, its abstract, elongated form visible across the valley and from the sky above. Unlike stone structures or hidden tombs, it is at once immediately apparent and profoundly mysterious, a monumental expression of human artistry and symbolism etched into the earth itself. The landscape surrounding the White Horse is simultaneously serene and commanding. Chalk hills rise gently, interrupted by deep valleys and ridges sculpted by the centuries. From a distance, the figure seems almost alive, a horse in perpetual motion, its head and neck poised with an elegance that contrasts with the raw simplicity of its form. The figure is created by removing the top layer of soil and exposing the white chalk beneath, a technique requiring labor, coordination, and planning, yet executed in a way that enhances the natural contours of the hillside. How did its creators choose this precise location, and what inspired such a striking, abstract design? Archaeologists date the Uffington White Horse to the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age, around 3,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest hill figures in Europe. Its age alone is remarkable, as it has been maintained over centuries, periodically scoured and refreshed to preserve the stark white contrast against the green hills. Yet the purpose of the carving remains deeply enigmatic. Some scholars suggest it served as a tribal emblem, a marker of territorial identity or power, while others see it as a spiritual or religious symbol, perhaps connected to sun worship, seasonal rituals, or local mythology. Could it have been both, a multifaceted expression of identity, belief, and artistic vision? Unlike the monumental tombs of emperors or pyramids of ancient civilizations, the White Horse is subtly integrated with the land. Its form is not rigid or geometric, but fluid and abstract, suggesting a conceptual rather than literal representation of a horse. This stylization raises questions. Why this particular abstraction? And what message was intended for those who saw it across the valleys? Could the figure have been designed to be seen from above, perhaps from the vantage points of the nearby hills, or even from the sky in some symbolic way since, linking it to celestial observation or mythological meaning? The surrounding area adds layers of context and mystery. Uffington Castle, an Iron Age hill fort, lies nearby, reinforcing the notion of the White Horse as part of a complex ritual or cultural landscape. Archaeological evidence indicates that the area was a hub of human activity for centuries, with burial mounds, enclosures, and pathways connecting the figure to broader patterns of settlement and ritual. Could the White Horse have functioned as a guide, a landmark, or even a spiritual protector for those who inhabited the hills? And what role did it play in the cosmology or mythology of the people who carved it? Speculative interpretations extend beyond tribal or ritual significance. Some researchers propose astronomical connections, suggesting that the horse may align with the solstices, the moon, or other celestial phenomena. Others consider the possibility of it serving as a symbolic representation of fertility, strength, or continuity, a visual language that conveyed meaning across generations. Unlike written records, the figure communicates through shape, scale, and context, leaving interpretation open but deeply resonant. How much of its message was intended to be immediate and local, and how much designed to endure, to be read and interpreted by future generations? The technique and labor involved in creating the White Horse also invite reflection. Carving into chalk requires knowledge of materials, geometry, and maintenance. The figure's proportions are remarkably consistent, with legs, neck, and body flowing in a rhythm that suggests careful measurement, or at least a sophisticated eye for balance and aesthetics. How did Bronze or Iron Age communities organize, plan, and sustain such a large-scale project? And what does this reveal about their social structures, technical knowledge, and the value placed on symbolic expression in public landscapes? Walking the hillside today, one senses the combination of human intention and natural artistry. The White Horse is both part of the land and an imprint upon it, a testament to human creativity that endures in harmony with the environment. The figure's abstract lines provoke both awe and contemplation, inviting us to consider the ways in which prehistoric communities expressed identity, belief, and observation through monumental art. How many generations of observers, participants, and maintainers have passed over this site, each contributing to its preservation, each interpreting it in their own way. Even after centuries of study, the Uffington White Horse retains an aura of ambiguity. Archaeological investigations, carbon dating of nearby deposits, and comparisons with other hill figures provide clues, yet they cannot fully explain the choices, beliefs, and intentions of its creators. Was it primarily a ritual object, a territorial marker, a symbolic tribute to a deity, or a combination of all three? And what might its abstract form, so striking in its simplicity, tell us about prehistoric concepts of art, symbolism, and representation? The White Horse also invites philosophical reflection on human memory and the passage of time. Unlike structures buried beneath earth, it is visible and vulnerable, subject to erosion, agriculture, and human interference. Its endurance depends on both human care and the resilience of chalk itself. Could the figure's longevity reflect a deliberate understanding of materials and landscape by its creators? Or has it survived through a combination of effort, chance, and reverence? And what other markers, symbols, or expressions from this era have been lost to time, leaving only hints in the hills and soil of the stories once told here? As the sun casts long shadows over the rolling hills of Oxfordshire, the White Horse stands as a bridge between past and present, between the visible and the unknowable. Its abstract, elongated form challenges our perceptions, inviting us to interpret without imposing certainty, to wonder without demanding answers. The hillside figure is a silent witness to human ingenuity, imagination, and the desire to leave a mark upon the world, a mark that communicates across millennia without words. The Uffington White Horse endures as both an artistic masterpiece and a profound mystery. It reminds us that even in familiar landscapes, the past can surprise, inspire, and confound, offering glimpses of human creativity and belief that resonate across generations. And as we stand upon the downs, gazing at the stark white figure etched into the earth, we are left with a simple, compelling question. What meanings, messages, or intentions remain hidden in the abstraction, waiting for those who are patient, observant, and imaginative enough to discern them? From the chalk hills of Oxfordshire, where the Uffington White Horse has silently endured for millennia, an abstract equine carved into the earth that continues to captivate and mystify, our journey now crosses oceans once more, returning to South America. High in the Altiplano of western Bolivia, nestled against the towering Andean peaks, lies a landscape both stark and mesmerizing, marked not by figures of horse or human, but by an intricate web of lines etched into the earth itself, the Sajama lines. Stretching across plains, valleys, and hills, these geoglyphs form one of the most extensive and enigmatic networks of linear markings in the world, visible only when viewed from elevation or from above. The terrain surrounding the Sajama lines is as austere as it is beautiful. Vast open plains extend for tens of kilometers, punctuated by volcanic peaks and ridges whose shadows shift with the passage of the sun. The climate is harsh, dry, and cold, with thin, crisp air that challenges the unprepared traveler. Amid this dramatic environment, the Sajama lines appear as narrow, straight grooves etched into the surface of the land, sometimes hundreds of meters long, intersecting, diverging, and forming an intricate lattice. From the ground, they can be subtle, almost imperceptible. From a distance, their geometry emerges, precise, deliberate, and undeniably human. Who created these lines, and why? Unlike the famous Nazca lines of Peru, which depict animals and symbolic forms, the Sajama lines are primarily linear and geometric. They rarely curve or form representational shapes. Instead, they extend across the plains, connecting sacred sites, shrines, and volcanic peaks. Some researchers suggest these paths were designed as ritual walkways, guiding pilgrims and participants through ceremonies tied to local cosmology and belief systems. Could they have served as a kind of sacred map, a network connecting the physical and spiritual worlds, linking mountains, springs, and ceremonial centers across the Altiplano? Dating the lines has proven challenging. Organic material in nearby settlements and ceremonial sites suggests that the geoglyphs may have been created and maintained over a span of centuries, possibly millennia. This enduring activity indicates a cultural significance that was sustained across generations. The effort required to produce and maintain these lines, removing stones and scraping away the topsoil over distances that sometimes span several kilometers, points to a high degree of organization and shared purpose. But what prompted such extensive labor in a harsh and unforgiving environment? Were these purely religious acts, demonstrations of social cohesion, or something more enigmatic? Walking along one of the lines today, one is struck by the simplicity and yet the precision of their design. Each groove seems straightforward at first glance, but as the eye follows it across the plain, it becomes evident that the paths intersect with others at deliberate angles, sometimes forming long, straight avenues that appear to orient toward mountains, peaks, or celestial events. Could these lines reflect astronomical knowledge, a calendar system, or alignments tied to solstices, equinoxes, or the rising of particular stars? And if so, how did the creators plan and execute such precise layouts without the benefit of modern surveying tools? Excavations and field studies have revealed that many of the Sajama lines converge upon shrines and sacred sites. Artifacts, altars, and offerings found in these locations suggest ritual activity, linking the geoglyphs to ceremonial life. Some lines appear to connect multiple shrines across vast distances, forming pathways that likely guided processions, pilgrimages, or other religious observances. Could the lines have been more than mere pathways, perhaps symbolic representations of spiritual journeys, encoding mythological or cosmological knowledge in the very fabric of the landscape? Speculative theories abound, as is often the case when tangible evidence is minimal and the patterns are vast and abstract. Some researchers have proposed that the lines represent territorial markers, a way for different communities to assert presence and influence across the plateau. Others suggest they may encode lost knowledge of geography, astronomy, or even energy currents, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of both the natural and spiritual world. Could it be that the lines are simultaneously practical, ceremonial, and symbolic, serving multiple purposes depending on the observer, the time, and the context? The landscape itself preserves the lines remarkably well. The arid climate prevents excessive erosion, and the sparse vegetation allows the grooves to remain visible for centuries. Yet, despite their durability, much about their origin and meaning remains elusive. Unlike monuments or tombs, the lines are ephemeral in scale, defined not by height or volume, but by the deliberate removal of the surface layer, creating patterns that interact subtly with light, shadow, and perspective. Could this ephemeral quality itself be part of their purpose, a reflection of impermanence, humility, or the intimate relationship between humans and the land? Technological advances have allowed modern researchers to study the lines in greater detail. Satellite imagery, aerial photography, and digital mapping reveal a network that extends for thousands of kilometers, connecting multiple volcanic peaks, ancient settlements, and sacred sites across the Bolivian Altiplano. This scale is breathtaking, suggesting that the people who created and maintained the lines possessed both a long-term vision and an intimate knowledge of the terrain. How did they coordinate such extensive labor, communicate over great distances, and ensure the integrity of these linear networks over generations? Even today, the lines inspire awe. Standing at the edge of a groove, stretching across the horizon, it is difficult to grasp the full scope of the network. Walking along one of the paths, a sense of connection with those who once traversed the same line emerges, bridging centuries of human experience. What ceremonies were performed along these lines? What stories were told? What meanings were encoded in their straight and unbroken paths, visible only when viewed in relation to the land and the cosmos? The Sajama lines also invite reflection on the ways humans interact with landscapes. Unlike constructed monuments or carved figures, these lines integrate with the natural world, forming a subtle dialogue between human intention and environmental context. They are not merely imposed upon the land. They exist in harmony with it, flowing across plains, skirting valleys, and aligning with peaks. Could this integration suggest a spiritual or cultural understanding of the land as a living entity, deserving of respect, observation, and ceremonial acknowledgement? The mystery endures because much remains unknown. While excavations, satellite imagery, and ethnographic studies provide glimpses into the lives of the people who created the lines, definitive answers remain elusive. The absence of written records, the simplicity of the geoglyphs, and the vast scale of the network make it difficult to reconstruct intent or meaning. Are these lines a map, a ceremonial network, a record of cosmological knowledge, or all of these simultaneously? And what other features, now buried or eroded, might once have complemented this extraordinary landscape? In the harsh, sun-baked Altiplano, the Sajama lines remind us that human expression can take many forms, from monuments and statues to subtle, sprawling works etched into the earth itself. They testify to the persistence of cultural practice, the transmission of knowledge across generations, and the human desire to leave an imprint upon the land. And as we trace these grooves, contemplating their direction, alignment, and precision, we are compelled to ask, what wisdom, ritual, or understanding has been encoded here, waiting silently for those patient and attentive enough to uncover it? The Sajama lines endure as both a human and natural phenomenon, bridging the gap between art, ritual, and landscape. They challenge us to consider the depth of knowledge, coordination, and belief that ancient peoples possessed, and to reflect on the enduring mysteries that remain in the seemingly empty expanses of the world. And as the sun sets over the Andean peaks, casting long shadows across the plains, the lines stand as a silent testament to human ambition, observation, and devotion, inviting us to ponder what lies hidden in the earth, the sky, and the hearts of those who walked here thousands of years ago. From the vast sun-baked plains of Bolivia, where the Sajama lines stretch across the Altiplano in meticulous, mysterious patterns, our journey now turns to the lush, verdant heights of the Peruvian Andes. There, perched on a ridge between two precipitous peaks, lies Machu Picchu, a citadel that has captivated explorers, historians, and archaeologists for over a century. Its terraced slopes, stone walls, and dramatic vistas evoke a civilization at once sophisticated and enigmatic, an architectural marvel whose purpose and origin continue to intrigue scholars and visitors alike. The approach to Machu Picchu is cinematic in itself. Verdant mountains rise steeply from the Urubamba River below, their peaks shrouded in mist and clouds that shift with the morning sun. Trails wind through dense jungle, revealing glimpses of terraces, stairways, and stone foundations before the citadel fully emerges, as if the mountain itself had given birth to this extraordinary construction. The settlement's location is striking. A natural fortress, almost impossible to access, offering commanding views of the surrounding valleys and rivers. Why was this particular ridge chosen? Was it purely strategic, or did it carry symbolic, spiritual, or cosmological significance for the Inca and those who preceded them? Archaeologists date Machu Picchu to the 15th century, during the reign of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. Yet, much about the site remains puzzling. Its construction demonstrates astonishing precision. Massive granite blocks cut, shaped, and fitted without mortar, some weighing several tons, aligned perfectly to withstand seismic activity in this earthquake-prone region. Terraces and drainage systems exhibit remarkable engineering skill, managing rainfall and erosion with methods that remain remarkably effective even today. How did the builders achieve such precision at this altitude, with limited technology by modern standards? And what was the purpose behind such labor-intensive design? Mainstream interpretations suggest that Machu Picchu functioned as a royal estate, a ceremonial center, or a retreat for Inca nobility. Its proximity to the Urubamba River, agricultural terraces, and complex water systems indicates that it was self-sustaining, capable of supporting a significant population. Yet the presence of finely constructed temples, such as the Temple of the Sun, the Room of the Three Windows, and the Tiahuanaco stone, a carved ritual pillar believed to function as a solar clock or calendar, suggests a purpose beyond mere habitation. Were these sacred spaces intended for astronomical observation, religious ceremony, or perhaps both? And how much knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and ritual practice was encoded in every stone, every terrace, every carefully oriented doorway? Machu Picchu's layout continues to invite speculation. Its urban and ceremonial areas are precisely aligned with cardinal directions and nearby mountain peaks. Some researchers argue that these alignments were intentional, allowing the Inca to track solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events. The positioning of the Tiahuanaco stone in particular has fascinated scholars who note that during the winter solstice, the sun's shadow aligns with the stone in a manner that suggests sophisticated astronomical understanding. Could this alignment reflect more than practical observation, perhaps encoding spiritual or cosmological concepts integral to Inca belief? Yet other mysteries persist. The construction techniques used to transport and shape granite blocks, some quarried miles away, remain subjects of debate. How were these massive stones moved across rugged, steep terrain without modern machinery? How did the builders achieve such precise joins, perfectly aligned yet seemingly effortless, in a location so remote and challenging? Some fringe theories even suggest lost technologies or methods unknown to contemporary archaeology, though mainstream scholarship emphasizes human ingenuity, trial and error, and the effective use of levers, ropes, and coordinated labor. Still, the precision and scale of the site leave observers in awe, questioning the limits of what was possible in pre-Columbian civilizations. Machu Picchu is also deeply intertwined with the surrounding landscape. The terraces, canals, and aqueducts suggest that the builders worked in harmony with nature, sculpting the mountainside to support both agriculture and settlement, while mitigating erosion and rainfall. Could this reflect not only practical adaptation, but also a spiritual relationship with the land, a philosophy of stewardship and sacred geography that guided Inca construction across the Andes? The mountains themselves, Huayna Picchu, Machu Picchu, and surrounding peaks, were considered sacred or apis, believed to house spirits that required reverence. How did the alignment of temples, terraces, and pathways interact with these beliefs, and how much of the design was intended to channel or honor these spiritual forces? The site's sudden abandonment adds another layer of mystery. Machu Picchu appears to have been largely vacated around the time of Spanish conquest, yet it was never discovered by conquistadors, leaving its structures remarkably intact. Why was it abandoned? Was it a strategic retreat, a response to disease or conflict, or part of a ritual cycle of use and closure? And how did such a significant settlement remain hidden from European invaders, preserved in isolation for centuries until its rediscovery by Hiram Bingham in 1911? Even today, the site continues to reveal secrets. Archaeological studies uncover previously hidden terraces, walls, and ceremonial spaces, suggesting that much remains unexplored or poorly understood. Soil analysis, radiocarbon dating, and remote sensing technologies hint at complex patterns of construction, use, and adaptation that challenge simple explanations. Could there be additional chambers, tunnels, or ritual spaces concealed beneath terraces, awaiting discovery? And what might these reveal about the organization, beliefs, and daily life of the inhabitants? Speculative interpretations abound, as often happens when evidence is tantalizing but incomplete. Some suggest Machu Picchu functioned as a repository of astronomical knowledge, a cosmological map carved into stone and mountain. Others propose it was a spiritual retreat for priests or royalty, a site of meditation, ritual, and communion with the Apis. Its careful orientation, precise stonework, and integration with the landscape suggest more than functional necessity. They suggest deliberate, profound intention. How did the Inca conceptualize space, ritual, and power? And how did they translate those concepts into stone, earth, and water systems with such lasting effect? Walking through the citadel today, one feels both awe and humility. The terraces cascade down the mountainside. The stone walls fit together with uncanny precision, and the views stretch over valleys shrouded in mist. Each structure, each pathway, each carefully carved doorway conveys knowledge, intention, and an aesthetic sensibility that transcends time. Could the builders have intended for observers thousands of years later to ponder the same questions, to experience the same sense of wonder and contemplation? Machu Picchu endures as a symbol of human ingenuity and mystery. Its terraces, temples, and pathways speak of a civilization that harmonized architecture, astronomy, and spirituality in ways that continue to challenge our understanding. It reminds us that even within societies without written records in the modern sense, knowledge, skill, and vision could produce monumental, enduring, and deeply symbolic works. And as we contemplate the citadel, nestled high among the Andes, we are left with a profound question. How much remains hidden in the stones, terraces, and surrounding peaks, waiting for careful study, patient observation, and reflection? The mystery of Machu Picchu is not merely in its stonework, its engineering, or its astronomical alignments. It lies in the questions it provokes, about human creativity, knowledge, and ambition, about the relationship between civilization and landscape, and about the ways in which culture, spirituality, and practical necessity intertwine. Each terrace, wall, and ritual space invites us to imagine the lives of those who built it, to ponder the intentions behind every carefully shaped block, and to consider what truths about the Inca, and perhaps about human potential itself, remain undiscovered. As the sun rises over the Andean peaks, casting long shadows across the terraced slopes of Machu Picchu, the citadel seems almost alive, a silent witness to centuries of observation, reverence, and speculation. It stands as a testament to the sophistication of its builders, the resilience of human endeavor, and the enduring allure of mystery. And as we peer into its temples, pathways, and terraces, we are reminded that history is not a collection of answers, but a landscape of questions. Questions that challenge us to look closer, think deeper, and remain open to the possibility that some of the most profound discoveries are still waiting to be uncovered in the shadows of the mountains. From the towering terraces and sacred stones of Machu Picchu, where the Inca carved knowledge, ritual, and celestial observation into the high Andes, our exploration turns once more to the Mediterranean, to the crystalline waters between Crete and mainland Greece. It is here, amidst the sun-drenched Aegean, that one of the most remarkable and perplexing archaeological discoveries of the ancient world lies hidden in fragments. The Antikythera mechanism. A small, corroded lump of bronze and wood recovered from a shipwreck over a century ago, it has since revealed itself, under careful examination, as a sophisticated device of astonishing complexity, a testament to technological prowess that seems centuries ahead of its time. The story of the mechanism begins in 1901, when sponge divers exploring a Roman-era shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon a collection of corroded artifacts. Among them was a brittle, oxidized mass that, at first, seemed unremarkable. But as scholars studied it more closely, its significance became apparent. Embedded within the corroded bronze were precisely cut gears, pinions, and dials, arranged with a level of craftsmanship that suggested a purpose both intricate and profound. How could a civilization over 2,000 years ago, lacking any known analogues to such mechanical ingenuity, produce a device of this sophistication? What knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering must its creators have possessed to conceive and assemble such a mechanism? The Antikythera mechanism has been described as an analog computer, a mechanical calculator capable of predicting celestial phenomena with remarkable precision. Its front dials display the positions of the sun, moon, and likely the planets, while the back incorporates a complex system of interlocking gears that tracks the metonic cycle, a 19-year period after which lunar phases repeat on the same dates, and the Saros cycle used to predict eclipses. Each gear, each inscription, each alignment suggests intention and precision. Could the mechanism have served as a tool for astronomers, navigators, or philosophers, allowing them to understand the rhythms of the heavens in a tangible, mechanical form? What makes the mechanism so compelling is not merely its function, but its sophistication relative to its time. While geared devices would not reappear in Europe until the medieval period, this artifact demonstrates knowledge of differential gearing, precise calibration, and complex mathematical cycles, all embodied in a device small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. How did such advanced engineering exist in the 1st century BCE? Who were the minds capable of conceiving such intricate mechanisms? And why is there so little other evidence of this level of technological mastery in the ancient record? The Antikythera mechanism has been meticulously studied using X-ray imaging, 3D scanning, and other modern techniques, revealing layers of complexity hidden beneath centuries of corrosion. Tiny inscriptions describe the purpose of gears, months, and celestial events, and the alignment of dials suggests a sophisticated understanding of orbital cycles. Scholars speculate that the mechanism could predict eclipses, track the lunar nodal cycle, and even serve a calendrical or astrological function. Could it have been an educational device, used to demonstrate the harmony of the cosmos, or a practical tool for scheduling religious festivals and navigation? Its purpose remains elusive, inviting both awe and speculation. Mainstream scholarship often emphasizes that the Antikythera mechanism reflects the ingenuity of Hellenistic science, a peak of Greek intellectual achievement during a period of remarkable mathematical, astronomical, and engineering development. Yet the device also raises uncomfortable questions. If the Greeks possessed knowledge of gearing and astronomical prediction this advanced, why did it not survive more widely? Why do no contemporary texts or artifacts clearly describe similar mechanisms? Was this an isolated creation, a singular masterpiece, or a glimpse of a broader technological tradition now lost to history? Speculative interpretations have flourished alongside conventional scholarship. Some suggest that the mechanism's precision hints at influences beyond the Mediterranean, perhaps reflecting knowledge transferred from earlier or contemporary civilizations whose evidence has vanished. Others have posited that it may embody lost principles of mathematics, astronomy, or even cosmology, encoding knowledge that has yet to be fully deciphered. Could it represent a form of applied science that, for reasons unknown, disappeared from the historical record, leaving behind only this singular fragment as testimony? The physicality of this device contributes to its aura of mystery. The surviving fragments reveal a system of at least 30 gears, each carefully cut, with teeth shaped to precise specifications. The mechanisms are arranged in layers, allowing one set of gears to drive another, producing movements that translate complex cycles into a readable interface. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. The bronze components were cast, filed, and polished, and inscriptions were etched with meticulous care. Who were the artisans capable of such work? And what was the collaborative process that allowed mathematicians, astronomers, and engineers to produce this unified instrument? Its recovery from the depths of the sea only heightens the intrigue. The Antikythera mechanism was preserved in a shipwreck, lying for centuries beneath shifting sands, salt water, and time. How did it come to be aboard a vessel traveling these waters? Was it being transported for study, trade, or as part of a broader collection of scientific instruments? And what else might have been lost in the same wreck, objects that could have contextualized this marvel and illuminated the lives and knowledge of those who created it? The mechanism's implications extend beyond mere technology. It challenges assumptions about the linear progression of knowledge, demonstrating that advanced understanding may emerge, flourish, and then vanish in ways that defy simplistic historical narratives. It also invites us to reconsider the sophistication of Hellenistic culture, the interconnections between mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and practical craftsmanship, and the extent to which intellectual achievements can disappear from the record. How many other devices, texts, or methods have been lost to time, leaving only tantalizing fragments to suggest their existence? Modern researchers continue to study the Antikythera mechanism, employing high-resolution imaging, computer modeling, and reconstruction techniques to uncover its full functionality. Reconstructions have allowed scholars to simulate its celestial predictions, revealing the elegant interaction of gears and cycles. Yet even these models cannot fully capture the context, intent, or meaning behind its creation. Was it primarily a scientific instrument, a pedagogical tool, or a ceremonial object imbued with symbolic significance? Did it inspire awe in its contemporaries, or was it merely one practical expression of Hellenistic ingenuity? The mystery of the mechanism also intersects with questions of cognition and culture. Its creators must have possessed not only technical skill but abstract reasoning, mathematical understanding, and the ability to visualize and manipulate complex systems. How did such knowledge develop, and why is so little of it preserved elsewhere? The mechanism prompts reflection on human potential, on the capacity to conceive of devices that model the cosmos with such precision, and on the fragility of knowledge when subject to the passage of time, conflict, and chance. Standing metaphorically before the Antikythera mechanism today, one is struck by both its intimacy and grandeur. It is small, fragile, and corroded, yet within it lies a universe of thought, calculation, and vision. Each gear, each dial, each inscription is a whisper across centuries, a reminder that the past can be both astonishingly sophisticated and deeply mysterious. What truths remain encoded in its bronze layers, and what might further study reveal about the civilizations capable of conceiving such ingenuity? The mechanism's story is not just about gears and astronomy. It is about human curiosity, ambition, and the relentless desire to understand the world. It reminds us that the trajectory of knowledge is rarely linear, that insights can emerge, vanish, and reappear in unexpected forms. And it compels us to ask, what other technological, scientific, or philosophical achievements of the ancient world remain hidden, lost beneath the waves, buried in soil, or waiting for patient study to illuminate their secrets? The Antikythera mechanism endures as both artifact and enigma, a bridge between past and present, tangible proof of the complexity and depth of ancient knowledge, and a symbol of the mysteries that continue to inspire wonder and investigation. It challenges us to consider the ingenuity of those who came before, the impermanence of human achievement, and the tantalizing possibility that much of our history, intellectual, technological, and philosophical, remains concealed, awaiting discovery. As we contemplate the interlocking gears and dials, the elegance of their design, and the questions they provoke, we are reminded that history is not a static record, but a landscape of mysteries, inviting exploration, imagination, and the enduring pursuit of understanding.